Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. After taking full and absolute control over Astapor, with my first order of business being that slavery was illegal and that all slaves were free to choose their own path, I left the city, leaving a small army of 5,000 men to protect it as I rode with the rest of my army off to Myr, where I would meet with Daenerys and my babies. Coming to Astapor had opened my eyes to many interesting problems in my plan. Logistically speaking, every time I conquered a city I had to leave behind some type of army to defend it, which in the end would leave me short of men. The only way to avoid that was to completely destroy any opposition. And considering that so far I had personally conquered 3 cities, 4 if I counted Tyrush, that was conquered by one of my generals during my time in Astapor, things were looking bad for me in the future. In each city, I had been leaving around 5,000 soldiers to defend my new lands from sieges and raids from nearby cities that decided it was their time to shine, leaving my usable army in the 75,000s at the moment, instead of the almost 100,000 I had in total. While 75,000 men were indeed a big army, at the pace I was dwindling my own numbers for logistical reasons, I would end up with almost none. My 5,000 men. Lyce 5,000 men. Tyros, 5,000 men. Astapor 5,000 men. In total, I had 20,000 men out of my hands, but now that I had noticed this problem, those numbers could and would be improved. For example, the islands didn't need that many men to protect them. The Krakens were all the defenses they needed, so I could lower the numbers on those to 1,000 men each island, and it would be more than enough. Now, the earthbound cities needed the soldiers I had on them, mostly to avoid putting me in a situation where I had to conquer a city twice. So as now the only way to shorten the amount of men I had off my hands was by taking some from the islands. "Is there anything this one can do for you?" Missandei offered. "Not for now," I chuckled. "By the way, you can refer to yourself with I, instead of this one." I was taught I wasn't a person, but an object. "It's hard," Missandei smiled at me as she tried to speak normally, struggling a lot to do it. "Then that is my mission for you," I smiled, ruffling her hair. "From now on I want you to focus on erasing that idea off your head." "I understand. I will do my best," Missandei smiled. I turned to her with a smirk on my face. "I don't want you to try. Trying means failure is possible. I want you to do it to succeed." Missandei looked at me for a brief moment, still probably questioning why was I doing all of this, before she nodded. "I will do it, Atta girl," I chuckled. Daenerys POV, 1 month prior. The public execution for Viserys started. My brother begged me to forgive him, but I had lost all the empathy I had for him a long time ago, and he killed the ashes when he threatened my children. By fire we forged our path, and by fire he would die. "Dany, please, I beg you, don't do this. I'm your brother, your king, please. I'm sorry." Viserys cried, snot falling down his nose. "You are no brother of mine, you are no king of mine, you are nothing," I said, with a cold tone, and in cue, both Creo and Rhaegal flew out of their rooms, scaring Viserys. "Dany, please," Viserys cried out once again, for everyone to see. "Dracarys?" Soon after those words left my mouth, both Creo and Rhaegal set my brother to flames. His screams of pain lasted about 3 seconds, before he was turned to ashes, showing the world he was no dragon, for flames can't hurt a dragon. "Be this a reminder that I will do anything to protect my family," I said as I walked out of the execution area, with Q and Rhaegal, leaving behind turmoil of emotions in the crowd. Some cheered for me, mostly the Ironborn. Some feared me and others respected me. "People will forever remember this," Daisy said with a concerned tone. "Good. Let it be a reminder that there isn't someone I wouldn't kill to protect my husband and children." Daenerys POV, now. Ronard has conquered Astapor, and along the way had increased our numbers with 14,000 unsullied warriors. In his absence, Tyros had fallen under the might of our navy, and our sweet little bundles of joy had grown so much. Geralt was so big now, and was crawling like a little monkey everywhere, never getting tired, always looking to play, unlike Alyssa, who was her twin total opposite, calm and well-behaved, sleeping almost all the time. But even with her calm attitude, I would find Geralt corrupting his sister to do crazy baby stuff, like I would find Alyssa forcing Geralt to take a nap. Every day I would get a new surprise, a new reason to smile with them, but also a reason to be sad. I was sad Renard was missing all of this. I knew and understood why, but it was still sad. "Don't be sad, my queen," Daisy said, reading my face like a book. "The king is coming in a month to Mirror. You'll see him there, and so will the little cubs. I just wish we could be together at all times," I smiled. "Once this war ends, I'm sure that wish will come true," Daisy smiled. Illyrio Mapatis POV. Merit had fallen, and so did Estepor, and I was sure by this point that Monster knew I had a hand in his assassination attempt. If I didn't do something, I would die. He had an army few could hope to match. 3 dragons that one day would grow to be beasts of unparalleled power, and the money to fund all that. But I had something he didn't. Experience. Decades of experience. I knew I wasn't enough to kill him, but with the help of Bravos, he was as good as dead. "This plan you have is too expensive. If it fails, we can't do it again," the representative of the Iron Bank commented, and he was right. My plan to kill Ronard and his army was expensive, and it would put me on a crippling debt with the Iron Bank, but as long as Ronard existed, the young Griff would never get the crown. "Don't worry, I only need one shot, and all that brat built will fall like a house of cards." I smiled. Peter Bauer's POV. Things weren't going quite as planned. A small player became the most prominent player overnight. I had lost my position as the master of coin. The despicable Ned Stark had survived, closing any possible relationships for me with the Starks. After all, I did sell him out. But with time I would turn this to my favor. If the bear ended up winning, I was sure with that. With the right preparation I could manipulate the young bear to my favor. I just had to find what made the young bear tick. "Lord Baelish," Varys said, entering my establishment. "Varys, to what do I owe this pleasure?" I inquired sarcastically. "Save the lies for the court. Now how about we talk about Jon Arrys?" Varys smiled, taking a seat. Varys knew how the old disgusting man had died, but he also knew who had requested such a thing. He couldn't use that against me, so what was the little spider trying to do? "By all means, let's," I smiled. Margaery, Tyrell, POV. I was to marry in a few days. In a few days I would be queen. The only bad part was that my king didn't find women appealing at all, but that hardly mattered. I didn't care where or in whom he put his manhood inside, as long as his seed was delivered to me. If I gave him an heir, my position as the queen would be forever sealed. After that I couldn't care less if he slept with Loras for the rest of his life. "Soon I'll be a queen," I smiled, begging the gods to help me get with a child fast. After a month of traveling, I was finally in Mirror, where Daenerys was waiting for me with open arms, with our babies. I was surprised by how big the twins were. It is truly remarkable how babies grow during the first months of their life. "You bought all the Unsullied?" Daenerys asked, after my dose of kisses and baby hugs. "Yes, but they are free men now," I nodded, because like she did in the show, I too had given them their freedom. But they had decided to follow me, with Grey Worm as general. "We keep getting stronger," Daenerys smiled. "Yes, we do." "Yes, we do," I said, with a baby voice while holding the twins, making the twins laugh. "Faff." Daenerys giggled. "Oh, by the way, there is someone I think will be of great help to you," I said, remembering I had yet to present her to Missandei. Daenerys and her were best friends on the show, so perhaps they could do the same here. "Who?" Daenerys inquired with curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "Missandei. She was a slave translator, but I feel you two will get along," I said. "A translator, well, I do like learning new languages," Daenerys hummed. "Well, I don't see why not." "Great," I smiled. "What is your next step after this?" Daenerys inquired. I had taken 4 cities, 3 of the free ones. "The same," I said. After all, there wasn't much of a change. "I want to help you more," Daenerys sighed, kneeling before me, kissing my hand in a lovely way. "Let me, please." I eyed her for a second, deep in thought. She could really help, but I didn't want to risk her or my babies getting hurt, so I had found something that wasn't as lethal. And then it dawned on me. I've been dealing with the conquests and the aftermatch of those by myself, but she could deal with the aftermatches for me. "I do have something you could do that would help me a big deal." I nodded. "I need to deal with the aftermatches. When I conquer a city, I'll be the one taking them down, and you'll be the one to assimilate them." Daenerys smiled. "That way, you don't have to stay in a city for too long, right?" "Exactly." I nodded. I suppose I can do only that for now, Daenerys said, eyeing the dragons.
Your buyers then.
Sell me POV. The waters to Essos were tough and unforgiving, killing many men on my way to this continent, but I was finally here. I had to find the young bear. A man fighting against slavery and raiding was a man worth giving my last few years of service. I was old. I knew one day I would fail my swing. I would fail to block or to dodge. I wanted to do something good with my life while I still could. Rumors said he was in Mir at the moment and would leave soon. In a month or less, I would be his blade. Melisandre POV. I was pregnant, with the tool to destroy Renly Baratheon, using his older brother Essence. I would birth the light minion to kill Renly. Then I would proceed to lead Stannis wrong, so that he and the lions destroyed each other to the point of exhausting their own resources and men, so that when my beautiful prince finally crosses the continued incomes, all he has to do is sit and rule the ashes, these false kings left behind. But I had to be careful. Stannis believed in me, but was an impulsive man. Should he feels I was leading him wrong, he will kill me, and I'm quite not ready to die just yet. I've been waiting 400 years for this, to serve my prince in anything he might desire. An assassin, a lover, or a friend. I would be his in body and mind. Just wait, my prince. The light will unite us. I'll be anything you need.
Calls, this bitch is crazy.
For him, yes I am. I eyed the raven on my window. The fire had told me his animals were more than the eye could see, and the fire had blessed me to understand them, and I was overjoyed. My beautiful, perfectly magnificent prince decided to keep an eye on me. Tell my prince, I will help him from here. Yelena Tyrell POV. The young bear had conquered yet another city, acquiring on the way an army of unsullied soldiers, increasing his already terrifying army. Alongside Renly's banners, we had a bit over 100,000 soldiers. People would tremble before our army. That's what I would say, if I didn't know better. We had nothing but flowers going to war, men with no experience, with no idea how to hold a sword, wearing fancy armors. A soldier is only as good as his knowledge of the battlefield. Reason why we were losing this war so bad. The idiot of my son had the worst case of tunnel vision possible. Hiring and drafting any men he could to war was like giving blind monkeys knives and letting them loose in the battlefield, but at least the monkeys would win more. My son thought numbers won wars, which was the most idiotic thought any man could have. Maybe I drank too much with him on my belly. Experience wins wars, knowledge wins wars. Otherwise you might as well throw babies into the battlefield and expect them to win because they outnumber the enemy. We had nothing useful, but the young bear had savages that had learned to kill just to eat. Soldiers that were trained since they were nothing but toddlers to be the pinnacle of discipline. Northerners that had to adapt to harsh conditions to survive, and the best navy in Westeros. Compared to that, I had to be realistic. We had no chance. Illyrio, Mopatis POV. The Alchemist Guild would give the tool to destroy the Bear of Essos, the so-called Call of the West. 2 tons of wildfire to destroy him and his army. This, of course, would be expensive and truly hard to accomplish, but I knew where he would eventually be. At one point he would come to Pentos, and I would burn the city with him. You won't see it coming, monster, I laughed. Yes, he will, you idiot. You are the one that won't see us, the Raven Knights, when we take you down. Caw. What an annoying bird, I muttered, wondering why all of a sudden there were so many ravens on Pentos. Euron Greyjoy POV. Since some ravens had stolen my dragon horn, I had sailed back old Valyria, with one thing in mind, well, 2. To avoid the fucking usurper, and get my horn. I was fearless, not stupid. With 1,000 men I had no chance of winning. He would have my head on his wall in less than an hour. But no one knew these waters like me, so avoiding him and getting the horn would be like fucking a nice pussy or killing a man. Easy. 3 more days, and we'll get to Valyria, boys, I shouted, as I laughed. Oh yeah, I forgot none of you can talk. Jario, Naharis POV. A conquered was among us, and frankly he was having a lot of success. Quite the fearsome warrior the Call of the West is, or the young bear as some call him. With an army of 100,000 soldiers, and his apparent strategic genius, I doubted he would have much opposition during his mission, and while many hated him, I didn't, because thanks to the threat he represented we got quite the juicy contract with Yunkai. But that only meant I would have to kill him, and to be honest, if the rumors of his prowess in battle are half true, I'm more fucked than a new whore in a brothel. Ha, I suppose things are getting interesting regardless, I laughed. Grey Worm POV. Our owner, no, our king was a powerful man, a warrior of unparalleled strength and discipline, that danced on the battlefield like no one else. He was strong, someone worth fearing. But he was also kind like no one else. He broke our chains, he killed our jailers, he gave us something we had lost, years ago. Hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better life, and for that he would have our undying loyalty, for the Unsullied would follow him to hell and back if needed. Before leaving for my next conquest on the list, I was informed by my ravens of a few things. One, Ser Barristan Selmy was coming this way to pledge himself to me. 2, Ilyu was baking quite the diabolical plan, with an idea that might just work if he plays his cards right. He had commissioned a literal ton of wildfire to destroy me and my army, with the help of Bravos. 3, Melisandre knew I was the champion of her god, and for some reason probably related to her that she now could talk with my animals, and promised me she would kill Renly. And 4, Ned Stark and the entire North had pledged themselves to me. These bits of new information changed everything for me, because if I didn't act fast my army would be erased from existence by the volatile power that Dragon Vegan Fire the Alchemist Guild was making. I knew Elrio was planning something, that much was obvious, but one thing was wanting to kill me, and another was to basically create the equivalent of a nuke on this time just for me. And not only was he planning on using one if not the most dangerous substances in the world, but he also went as far as to using his city as a bait for me, meaning he would burn millions just to see me wrong. I gotta hand it to him. I misjudged his character. He isn't a spineless little pig. He's a spineless little monster. I never thought he would go that far to get rid of me. Assassination attempts. Sure, political plots, obviously, but mass murder of his own people to accomplish his goal. Never. He was darker, I thought, by a big margin. The worst part about this was that it could actually work. Not with me. I was now apparently immune to fire, though I am not entirely sure if that applies to vegan fire, and I'm not looking forward to test that out. But regardless of my immunity to the fire, his plan could work, not as intended, but it could still hurt me on the political run. 1 ton of wildfire was more than enough to vaporize my army, and even if he doesn't kill me, leaving me without an army would fuck my entire plan and possibly the world. So I couldn't just sit and let him wait for the key of my destruction to be delivered at his door. I had to attack fast, and now perhaps this was the result of my approach being too passive. And while that approach was the right call at the beginning, it wasn't now. Now I needed to bear my fangs and claws out and show them what happens when you mess with the bears. Change of plans. We are going to Pentos, all of us. I would march with my 100,000 me to Pentos, taking the city, and at the same time I would attack Bravos, killing apparently the 2 biggest pseudo-threats I had right now before they grew to be real threats, with real means to destroy my work. Without those 2 in my side, I would be able to take Essos with little to no opposition. Ned Stark POV. Maggie had accepted our betrothal a few months ago, which meant our alliance was sealed by blood and honor. All I had to do now was wait for him to come, so that we could march south and take the throne. Rumors said he had 100,000 soldiers, that alongside the 40,000 the North could provide should be more than enough to win. Father, Robb said, entering my solar. Yes? I inquired. We have a letter from Renly, he said. Should we join him, he will forgive our sins. Robb said, reading the letter. Renly had been quite the pain since he heard we didn't pledge to his brother, sending ravens with passive threats with the underline always being the same. Join me or die. Send him the usual response, I sighed. Yes, father. Robb nodded, leaving my solar. Der Slacid, Martel, POV. Ned Stark had joined Ronard's side. With his support, and ours, the young bear would surely win the throne, and we would have the revenge we have desired for so many years. Together we would crush the Lannisters for what they did, and get the justice we deserved. I heard the North joined the young bear. At first I didn't believe it, but the wolf moved his army back to the north, as he waits for him to come. Oberyn Diaz as he entered my room. Are we still to hide, brother, or are we ready to show that snakes of Dorne pay their debts? Oberyn, for once, was right to be impatient. We finally had a tangible path to justice. We will follow the wolf's path. Oberyn stood silent for a second, clearly not expecting my answer. After a few seconds, he composed and smiled. Gladly, I will call our banners, and let the North know we are their allies in this mission, I informed Oberyn, who looked at me confused. What about me? Oberyn inquired. You will go to Essos with an army, to help the young bear come back home, so that we can destroy the Lannisters. I smiled. Oberyn smiled at that. It will be my honor. Melisandre POV. The time had come for me to birth the tool to help my prince, the tool to eliminate his enemies. Pain, incandescent pain, invaded every corner of my body, taking hold of my being, but this was nothing, for I would suffer 1,000,000 times more just to ensure my prince wins, just to ensure he fulfills the prophecy. Ah! I cried in pain, as the shadow left my body, blood dripping everywhere, and the only ones present to witness this was Davos. How fortunate of him to witness how I vanquished the enemies of my prince. Kilroy, I gave the shadow the order. The reason for its short existence, a task he would most undoubtedly carry out with no problems. The shadows crawled close to me, as if giving his mother one last look before dying. Before phasing off the cave I gave birth in, going straight to Renly. My prince. That's one. I hope you see my love for you has no bounds. I smiled, knowing every minute of pain I was and had suffered so far was nothing compared to the lengths I would go to just for him. This can't be right, Davos muttered. This can't be light. Poor ignorant soul, all shadows are born from light, I smiled. Bernard Mormont POV. 2 weeks later, as I rode with my army to Pentos, I found along the way the old knight who wanted to join me. After a brief discussion with him, I decided to let him join my ranks, for in reality he was a really good knight that wasn't entirely bad. He was just your typical soldier that followed bad kings. He wanted to be the captain of my Kingsguard. And, considering I technically didn't have agreed, but in reality I was thinking of creating something in the Forte, more along the lines of a round table for my knights and council, where every man would have a voice and help me rule. But first I had to deal with Pentos, and then Braavos. I had to strike fast and strong, as to not give them any opportunity to fight back. If Braavos fell, the rest of Essos would be a piece of cake. With this siege, I didn't have much of a plan. Pentos didn't have an army, nor any mighty walls to take down. They were weak, reason why they had been buying the cows out of their city. Braavos was the real challenge here, with more money that anyone can possibly imagine, and a fierce army. They would give my army a challenge. Let's set camp, people. Tomorrow we won't stop until Pentos is on their knees and their magister is dead. I shouted, rallying my men a bit. For the Call of the West, for the Breaker of Chains, for the King of the Seven Kingdoms, for the Father of Dragons and Emperor of the New World, for the Young Bear. I smiled as I heard them chant each and every single one of my titles that somehow seemed to grow in numbers every day. Arriving at Pentos created a turmoil of emotions for me. For one, I was extremely angry with Illyrio and wanted to kill him, making sure he suffered a lot, but conquering Pentos took approximately 2 hours and had little to no bloodshed whatsoever. Apparently the high nobles of Pentos were quite the rational bunch, with the majority of them kneeling to save their lives and positions, which in turn made capturing Illyrio a really easy task. He tried to escape on one of his personal boats, probably seeing how his idiotic actions had backfired and that his only option was trying to escape. But sadly he was mysteriously eaten by sea creature. I really hope my poor Kraken doesn't get an indigestion. With Illyrio dead, Pentos was officially mine, though it still felt kinda off to win so easy. But I won't complain, things like this rarely happen. What are our orders? Sir Thurston inquired. We take control of the city and its assets, and then we move to Braavos in 2 of 3 weeks too, I informed my war council as I left the room. What they didn't know was that the real reason I was waiting was because of Oberyn Martell and the army he was bringing, an army to support me and push me to go with him to Westeros. Which was an idea that had already occurred to me because after taking Braavos under my control, which was by far the biggest threat on this side of the sea for me, I would be able to leave this continent and focus on the Iron Throne. Leaving Daenerys behind, I would leave Daenerys with a small part of my army to protect her and the cities we had already taken, and with that I would move all my attention solely on Westeros, attacking the kingdom while it was weak and vulnerable. Taking a deep breath, I decided to go to the kitchen and prepare something good. It had been quite a while since I had eaten anything made by me, being a lord and stuff. And much to my horror, Westeros didn't have any pizzas or hamburgers, so I had to improvise to emulate those delicious, godlike creations. As I walked to the kitchen, Daenerys approached me with the twins, who were stretching their arms, begging to be with their dear old dad. Smiling, my beautiful wife inquired, "Where are you going?" "To the kitchen. I want to make some burgers, and now that I'm a dad it feels just right," I answered with a smile. Daenerys looked at me for a second before she asked with curiosity, "What is a hamburger?" "One of the many items any dad needs to know how to make is parenting one-on-one." I chuckled. If she wanted to know, she would have to eat one. The burgers were a massive success. Maybe I'll rip McDonald's off. My family seemed to love them, including my old man who even helped me with the grill. And while I'm still angry with him, I couldn't call that hate anymore. After everything everyone had done to me during the last few years, he really doesn't seem so bad. Technically, the assholes of this world made him look good, by comparison. And if I had to be rational about it, he wasn't inherently a bad person. Just the most stupid person I have ever met, and that's bad, but not batshit evil Cersei level. So I decided to give him a chance, because why not? He already had enough punishment, with not being able to hold any lands or ever restore his lord title. He had no power over me, and he seemed to be trying to atone really hard. "These burgers are amazing," Jorah said, trying to make some small talk. "Sad attempt, but keep trying," I chuckled, leaving him behind. "These are really good," Daenerys complimented. "Maybe we can make a business out of it." And there it was, my influence on her showing off. I was thinking the same. How about we call the business Corn Donalds? I chuckled. Daenerys giggled, which in turn made the babies laugh with her. "Sure, we can also sell some corn, I suppose." I kneeled to the baby's level, and with a baby voice said, "And our mascot will be Ronald Cornald." "I already exist, master." Out of nowhere, a raven that kinda looked like the Joker flew to my shoulder. "Existence is pain, master. Our lives are fleeting before us. Don't you understand, master? With every cornless day, the dark and sweet kiss of death comes closer and closer, waiting for us, haunting our dreams, and there will be a night where we will dream. No more, where we will gasp for air, but our bodies will fail, and all we can do, every night, is pray today isn't our night, but even then we can't never forget that fateful day is just in the horizon, waiting for us, and we will have to walk through it, and that's the one absolute truth in our lives, no matter our standing." Holy fucking corn! That was dark. "That raven is scaring me." Daenerys smiled awkwardly. "Me too," I nodded while thinking then, Jesus fucking Christ, was the real Ronald McDonald this dark? "I need time to process this," Neltharion hissed. "Antidepressants he needs." For too dark that was. Rhoda said after a second. "After a day of nothing but having fun together, and that incident with Ronald Cornald, I decided to sleep. In a few weeks I would be marching to Bravos, and then to Westeros. Things were not going quite as I planned. But things were working nonetheless, and you don't try to fix something that is working." Oberyn Martell POV. I was 2 weeks away from Pentos, and I'd never been happier. Our justice, our vengeance, soon I would make those who hurt my sweet sister lay with blood. The Mountain, Tywin Lannister and Emery Lorx, they in particular, would pay for what they did. I would make sure of that. The day of justice is coming. Are you seeing this, Elia? Your brother will finally avenge you. I smiled at the sky. For when the sun shone, it was my sweet Elia smiling at me from above. Ned Stark Pavois. The Martells has joined us, saying they could support us with over 40,000 me, that along what Ronard in the north had was more than enough to crush the lions in the south. An army of 180,000 soldiers. No matter how good of a strategist that old lion is, he was massively outnumbered. And while I was happy Ronard had the Martell support, I was surprised. They didn't ask for anything. No money, no betrothal, no nothing. Perhaps they were joining to make the Lannisters pay for what they did to Ilya Martell. Regardless of their reason, this made Renard's claim massively better than it was before. "Renard is up for a surprise," I chuckled. Theoria, Stark POV. Ronard was coming. I could feel it. Father had joined his side and so did the Snakes of Dorne. There was just a matter of time before he became our king. Knowing this, I focused even harder on my training. I had to help him. He saw talent in me when no one else did. He was the first friend I had outside my family. And whether he likes it or not, he is part of our pack, and I will protect him when the time comes. "Arya, stop playing like a boy with that blade." Mother yelled at me, angry. "I won't. I will be the first female Kingsguard, leave me alone," I shouted back. "I won't accept this," Mother growled. I will be a battle lady, like Ronard said. I stood my ground. That man is no king of ours, and no lady needs a blade, Mother said, trying to take my blade. And what do you want, Mother? Sansa entered the room, with a feint getting between Mother and I. All you are teaching us is how to open our legs, and frankly that curriculum lacks a lot. Or maybe it doesn't. I'm sure that opening our legs will work, if we lose a battle and some men try to rape us. Sansa, I will not tolerate this. You are out of line. I will. Mother tried to say, but Sansa cut her. We have Father's permission. You are the one out of line. Sansa replied calmly, which in turn made Mother slap Sansa on the face as she stormed out of the room. Wow, that was awesome, I said, smiling at my sister. I suppose I am, Sansa giggled, rubbing her face, but do try to avoid her when training. I don't want to be slapped on a daily basis. Will do, I laughed. 3 weeks passed since the grill day. Oberyn had yet to arrive, but I wasn't going to wait for him any longer, and I didn't. I was already outside Bravos at my war camp close. That was conveniently a few miles away from them, which apparently triggered the Braavosi Sea Lord, because I was awakened by one of my Revan scouts, who tells me that our camp will be under attack soon. Which made me glad I had decided to left Daenerys behind on Pentos for this one with 5,000 soldiers, while I fought the Braavosi right now. With a grunt, I jumped out of the bed and looked outside down the hill, confirming that a large group of soldiers was indeed approaching. Seeing they were at much 1 hour away, I quickly dressed, as grabbed my weapons. Get ready, Bravos is coming. I shouted loud and clear for all my men to hear. The Unsullied were already ready and alert, with the Dothraki being the second part of my army to follow suit. They have a dialogue flag? One of my men shouted, so they wanted to talk. Well, let's. Bravos wasn't like any other place in this world. They were kind of democratic with the power structure. By kind of I mean the position of Sea Lord is not hereditary, and is given in a pseudo-electoral way. That works kind of fishy. One of Bravos' citizens is chosen to be Sea Lord by the city's magisters and bankers through a convoluted and arcane process, meaning the populace has no vote whatsoever, and only wins the most malleable man. The choosing process apparently is intense, by how the rumors go, but once chosen, the new Sea Lord serves for life. Bravos' current Sea Lord was Ferrego Antarian. All I know about him is that he is a member of House Antarian, a noble house, and that he is who currently serves as the current Sea Lord of Bravos. But a Sea Lord was nothing without his sword. Each Sea Lord selects their first sword, who serves as their champion, captain of the guard, and ambassador sometimes. They were known for their immense prowess in battle and unique fighting style. Coro Volantin was the current first sword of Bravos, and probably the man I would have to kill soon enough. Welcome, Lord Mormont, the Sea Lord greeted with a disapproving look on his face. Is King, please be sure to remember that for whoever long you have, I said with a playful tone, letting him know he meant nothing to me. See, at first, I wasn't so sure about conquering Bravos. They seemed like an alright place, so the idea of opening a peaceful dialogue with them occurred to me once or twice, but the moment they allowed someone to commission a ton of fucking wildfire, well, let's just say, I don't have any more doubts. Brathios and the Iron Bank are one. The fucking bankers are an important part of their electoral process, which means they knew of this crazy project and still allowed it. Fuck them with capital theft. Do you really think this will end well for you? The Sea Lord inquired, with an apathetic tone. How prideful this bastard could be. With a smile I thought two could play this game. So I leaned back, putting my hands behind my head and my feet up the table. Yeah, have you seen my record? History would prove I'm right. How dare you disrespect the Sea Lord this way? The first sword of Bravos growled, clearly infuriated. What is a lord to a king? I chuckled, playfully. As much as I like this nonsense, I came here to discuss the terms of your surrender, the Sea Lord said with a judgmental look on his face. Sure, I smiled, with a joyful expression forming up my face. The two of them seemed happy for a moment, and I knew it was my moment to strike. So, you will lay down your weapons, give me all your money, and kill yourself? Sounds fair. Both the First Sword and the Sea Lord were astonished of my response. They surely didn't see that one coming. You are making a grave mistake, kid, the Sea Lord said with a hostile tone, trying to kill me with glares. No, I said with a dark tone. You are the one that made a mistake. When you let Ilrio buy 1 ton of wildfire, just to kill me, your greatest sin was making an enemy out of me. So do yourself a favor and kill yourself, because as long as your body is not underground rotting, I won't stop. I won't slow down. One way or another you will die, and it will be because of me. How dare you? The first sword pulled his weapon him, which in turn made Grey Worm, who was one of my selected bodyguards, jump in front of me. Spear ready to pierce any threats, followed by Sir Barristan, sell me. Allow me to kill this man, my king, Grey Worm requested, glaring at the first sword. You think Braavos will fall to you? The Sea Lord chuckled, but I could see his bitter tone miles away. No Braavosi would kneel to a slaver. Oh wow, you need to upgrade your spy network, I chuckled. We are no slaves, we serve the Kyle of the West, the breaker of chains, the father of dragons, the king of the known world, because he is worthy of being followed. We are the ones that aren't worthy of his guidance. Grey Worm said, and I could feel he meant every single word. Insolent fool. The first sword growled, taking a step forward. Boy, I can cut you 20 times before you reach my king, so do your job and think wisely, or this might be the last decision you ever made. Sarah Barristan said, sword ready to slice the first sword. You will die, and every Braavosi that dies will be because of you. I said, standing up, we are leaving, these 2 idiots are not worth my time. Grey Worm and Sarah Barristan nodded, as they followed me out of that place, leaving behind the soon-to-be-dead idiots. I went back to my camp satisfied how the peace reunion had gone. Surrender, ha! They should have thought of that when they paid for a nuke. You do not sponsor a nuclear deterrent, and later say, we are doing it for peace. How do you want to proceed with this, my king? Sarah Barristan inquired. Well, I have just the idea for this. I smiled as I started to explain my round table, consisting of Sarah Barristan Selmy, my most trusted blood rider Angie, and Grey Worm, who I would rename Lancelot. Can't stand calling him Grey Worm. It feels like I'm insulting him. Oberyn Martell POV. I had finally arrived in Pentis, after a bit of delay with the storms and stuff. I was finally here, though the city wasn't like I remembered. The city had banners all over the place that seemed to be the mix of House Targaryen and House Mormont together. Which means the young bear moves fast, and not only that, but I was immediately stooped by the Iron Navy, who then proceeded to interrogate me, so much I was quite sure they knew me more than my beautiful Ilaria. Now, can I speak with the Queen now? I inquired. Not that I don't like your company, I would love to take you out, but I have more pressing matters. You are as lively as rumors said, a commanding voice said behind me, which was more than easy to tell it was the Queen, mostly because the men inside the room shut their mouths as soon as she entered. I am, thank you very much for noticing, I smiled. And I hope you have in your best interest to keep that, Daenerys smiled, and while subtle her threat was clear, take a wrong step and you won't be lively anymore, or alive for the matter. It is. I like being alive, I nodded, with a smile. What is your purpose here? Daenerys inquired, taking a seat. To pledge myself to you and the king, Dorne is yours to command. I winked at her. If you help us take our revenge on the Lannisters. The Lannisters are our enemies too, Daenerys nodded. Then kneel and pledge your blade to us. I did as I was told. As I smiled at her playfully. This is a sight I don't mind repeating. I will assume that was an ill-judged attempt of you trying to be funny. Daenerys narrowed her beautiful purple eyes at me. I'm your queen now, and I'm married to your king. Oh dear, I would never sleep with the queen alone, but I wouldn't mind sleeping with both the queen and the king. I chuckled. You are going to have to forgive me, my queen. Dorne is the land of passion. We don't have boundaries. We fuck, we drink, and we indulge ourselves in the carnal desires of the flesh, be it man or woman. So those rumors were true too, Daenerys said, bored. You are also a horny idiot. I must apologize, I smiled. It's the way I am. Next time you insinuate something like that, I will have you join the Unsullied. Daenerys said with a cold tone. I must apologize in advance. It's just the way I am. Won't happen again. I nodded. Quite surprised the little dragoness had such sharp claws and teeth under her pretty exterior. I better avoid the flirting if I want to keep my best friend attached to me. No wall surrounds my war camp. And yet, the Sea Lord was hesitant to attack me. He knew I was, while young, dangerous, unpredictable, or perhaps I was predictable. After all, All I do is win, but forgetting for a moment about feeding my own ego, I knew he didn't have the power to fight me up front, but that didn't mean he would resort to other methods. "My king," Sarah Barristan said, as he entered my room, his face letting me know he had something important to share. "Yes?" I inquired. "There is a messenger from Bravos here," Sarah Barristan answered, "and this information confused me a bit. Didn't I told the Sea Lord a day ago I would kill him? Why in the seven hells would he send someone to talk to me?" Taking a deep breath, I get off my tent, seeing a massive black horse rearing close to me, dust curling around its hooves. The horse was probably one of the most beautiful horses I've ever seen, and atop of that majestic horse, a piece of shit. A Bravusi messenger with a terribly scarred face and a pair of gold teeth. Of course, he didn't come alone, but considering that all he brought to a camp with 90,000 soldiers was nothing but 15 men, it was technically as if he came alone. Seriously, what can 15 men do with these numbers? The messenger took a step forwards, and I could already taste the smugness he emanated. "I bring word from the great Sea Lord of Bravos." "We can debate on the great part," I chuckled. "If he was so great, why counsel he comprehend my clear hostility towards him?" Many of my Dothraki approached the man with smirks on their faces. They touch the messenger hair and smell around him, and soon they all start to laugh. "My call, this man smells like a woman." I started to laugh with my men. Well, I suppose it was to be expected. "A man that doesn't ride into battle is no man," my blood rider said with a smile. The messenger was by this point incredibly infuriated, hands griping his pants. "Westerosi arrogance. It will be the death of you all. If it were not for the diplomacy of the great Sea Lord, I would rip the breath from your lungs with my bare hands." I chuckled as I walked towards him, leaning close to him, handing him a knife. "Oh my, threaten me with a good time. Go ahead, do it. None of my men will move, but be sure to kill on your first shot, because if you don't, you will regret it." "My king," Sarah Barristan protested, but was silenced with a simple glare. You." The messenger froze with shock as stared at me with wide eyes, dropping the knife I gave him to the ground. "So does anyone wants to try?" I chuckled. "You bastard." One of the Bravosi guards couldn't take it anymore, and dashed with his blade towards me. I turned to him. "A volunteer." With that I dashed forward, kicking him on the neck with enough strength to shattering his neck, killing him in one shot. "I will fight you," another guard said. He was old but looked experienced. "If I win, will your troops go back?" "They will," I smiled, eyeing the still frightened messenger who was just silent, like a mute. The man grabbed a big sword and started to swing at me, quite slow. It was as if dodging someone trying to punch me underwater, with me not being underwater. After a while, this sad attempt started to get boring. "For God's sake, stop. This is stupid, even by your Bravosi standards. And as we've seen this week, that threshold is vast." "Is this just a game to you?" the old soldier growled, angry, holding his massive sword tight. I smiled. "A game? Hardly. If this were a game, I would be having fun, or killing Joffrey. Now that sounds like a good time." The old soldier rushed at me, giving his last battle cry, that lasted for a few seconds before his decapitated head landed with a heavy thud on the floor. Now, that was depressing. I chuckled, eyeing the messenger. The messenger composed himself a bit, and said with the utmost confidence, "If you value your lives over your complete annihilation, you must turn back now, while our great Lord is forgiving." I sighed, wondering where did he get all that bravado. He just saw me effortlessly kill 2 of his guards. "Before continue to shit through your mouth, Bravosai, know that I am in a really bad mood today. So even a Lord's messenger, you will be held accountable for the words coming out of your mouth. Is that clear? Leave, and submit to the Sea Lord, and all will be forgiven." The messenger said, ignoring my threat, "Just how stupid can someone be? Submission. He wanted me to submit. How fucking dare he? If you don't submit, he will kill you and everyone you love." "Weaponizing my family, I see. And who's going to swing the sword?" I inquired, angry. "Your Sea Lord?" That was laughable. "You? Not in a million years." As I talk, I continue to move towards the man, and his guard's sword out. You can't kill the messenger," the messenger said, ordering his men to attack, but those were soon intercepted by my own guard, who were dealing with them quite easily. "I told you," I whispered close to his ear. "Next time learn to listen." With that I pushed my blade through his heart, as I stared deep into his eyes, seeing his life slowly drain out of him. Panic, fear, anger, were just a few of the emotions I was able to read on his face, before the sweet release of death came for him. "Kill everyone but one," I ordered my men. After all, I wanted someone to deliver the message that peace was never an option. They threw that to the trash when they helped my enemies. Oberyn Martell POV. The beautiful, but really scary queen had ordered me and my army to go and help Ronard. Apparently he is fighting with Bravos. I didn't bring many men, but she said that I had to prove my loyalty by being there for my king. The things I do for revenge, the things I do for love. I finally had the chance to avenge Elia, my own sweet little son that was taken from us by those wretched lions, and if the price to get the revenge Dorne has been waiting was to kneel for a new king, we would do it. I didn't care who sat on the throne. All I knew is that I didn't want it, too much work. My only desire was to kill Tywin and his men. "Let's go, men. We are going dancing to Bravos," I ordered, not really sure if any of my men understood my clever wordplay about Bravos water dancing. Dario Naharis POV. The young bear had changed his schedule completely, and here we were with a contract of defending a city he might not even attack anytime soon. But I suppose getting paid for doing nothing was also acceptable, but one thing was absolutely true. I still had no idea how we would win, when all we had was 500 soldiers. I'm not really sure what the masters of Yunkai expect, because unless we each kill 200 of his army without dying, this was a suicide. Tywin Lannister POV. Dorne had pledged their loyalty to the young bear in Essos, that alongside the north gave the bear around 80,000 soldiers. That alone was very troubling. But to trust was just the beginning. The boy had also managed in Essos to acquire an army of 100,000 soldiers, which would bring his army to 180,000 soldiers. And while the young bear continued to grow and grow, our resources, our men, and everything we needed for this war was benign depleted. Slowly but surely, every day we were weaker, and because of that, we would pay. If only we could get the Tyrells to join us, we would have a better chance at winning this. Renly needs to die. With Renly dead, we would be able to marry Margaery to Joffrey, and in the process we would even the numbers out, because so far the boy was ahead of us. Then again, he doesn't have to deal with the idiocy of my children, and the mad rat for a grandchild I had, Joffrey. The time had come, the time for war. I would be leading the cavalry, with my entire Khalasar moving as one unit, while Lancelot, aka Grey Worm, attacked the gates of the city. Our forces were numerously superior to theirs, but they could still prove to be worthy opponents. Bravos had hired all the sellsword companies with the exception of two, the Golden Company and the Storm Crows. But even with those two out of the picture, they still had managed to amass 40,000 outside soldiers, which put them in a total of 60,000 soldiers on their side. But while their army could pose a problem, I knew I could handle things as they came. With my horses, ravens, snakes, bears, and other animals, my army was nearly unstoppable. But I wasn't going to let this thought of near invincibility cloud my judgment. Only fools think of victory before it. "I will lead the first attack with my Khalasar," I informed my war council. "And we will lead the navy attack, right?" My Ironborn inquired, looking at the map. "Yes," I nodded, turning to the Unsullied. "The Unsullied alongside Sarbaristan will push the main gate, while I keep their undivided attention on me." "It shall be done," Lancelot nodded. "I will do my best," Sarbaristan bowed. That was just part A of my plan. With the help of my ravens, I would bomb the city with medieval Molotovs, setting Bravos and unfortunately its people on fire. What I wanted to accomplish with this was to diverse their attention with chaos outside and within the city. This would break whatever strategy they had, or at the very least weaken them. But that's just the beginning of my Air Force attack, because Rhoda would be leading the Air Assault Forces B, where 500 Ravens would be dropping poison bombs within the enemy ranks, disrupting their formations and killing some of their ranks. At first I was reluctant to send my Ravens with poison to attack. History has proved they tend to kill themselves with that, but Rhoda showed me they had evolved to the point where they didn't, so I approved of his idea. With this, my victory was partly assured. Now it was time to execute my plan. "To war!" I shouted, rallying my men. To war! At the battle began, with my ravens being the first ones to attack. My loyal birds fly really high, far from the reach, from the enemy's arrow range, and begin releasing small metal objects that release a poisonous mist. The Bravosi soldiers soon began to choke and gag, and not having the antidote I had, their throat began to swell, and one by one they fell into the ground with heavy thuds. Wait for it! I had my troops on standby, waiting for my ravens to complete their part. Soon after, the next airstrike followed, with the other squad of ravens dropping Molotovs, that in total equal barrels of flammable liquid Brevos, setting the city in flames from the air. I let this continue for a few minutes, seeing how my feathery friends destroyed their ranks one by one, but them alone would not win this. It was time. I gallop with my horse, with thousands of Dothraki soldiers following me, as I yell, "Charge!" My troops rush forward with me, with loud war cries. I'm in front of the charge like a khal should be, and soon enough, my army crashes into the enemy. I start hacking at the Brafusi soldiers, killing 8 with my first swing without getting off my horse. I swing again, slashing another throat, leaving a trail of death behind me as I move forward. Jumping off my horse, mostly because fighting in one is uncomfortable, I rolled in the ground, grabbing a warhammer, deciding to try dual-wielding this weapon with my sword. I swung the warhammer, shattering someone's skull with ease. As I continued with my assault, I ducked under a spear that was going for my head in an attempt to kill. With a smile, I dropped the warhammer for a second, as I grabbed the spear from the still-alive enemy, disarming him with a swift kick, and then jabbed his own weapon through his neck. Noticing I was about to be surrounded, I smiled as I swung my blade, killing 5 guys with a single sweep. Taking a deep breath, I keep on dancing through the battlefield, turning and tearing through the Bravosi ranks. Seeing that around 20 more soldiers were coming my way, I leaped into the air, as one spearman tried to stab me. In the air, I grabbed the soldier's neck and with a strong twist broke his neck, doing a 180-degree turn. Wow, I will call that move the Hooternator, because Hooternam, I laughed. With a dark smile, I kept on fighting, slaughtering like the pigs they were, while laughing and roaring, as blood splattered my armor with each swing. At one point I was head to toe covered in their blood. And after a few hours of them seeing me slaughter them like pigs with no success in harming me, the Bravosi soldiers started to flee in sheer terror from me and my soldiers, but mostly me. My Dothraki warriors of course wouldn't let this happen, so they chased them down, wiping everyone that tries to escape my herd. "To the city," I shouted, mounting my horse, and immediately galloping to Bravos. Farrago Anturian POV. The city was burning, our army was being slaughtered. If this continued, we would lose by the end of the day. I was so sure we could hold him down, for years if necessary. But how was I supposed to know he had trained his ravens to drop poison and fire? The only option I had was to challenge him to a duel, his champion against mine, the winner takes all. Send a raven to the young bear. This was my last bet, and the last path to victory we still had. My first sword was sure to win for me this war, for there wasn't any better swordsman than him. Ranard Mormont POV. A few hours after the slaughter outside the city walls, a raven arrived from the Sea Lord. He wanted to avoid any further Bravosi blood to be spilled, and requested we solve this with a duel, his champion against mine. The duel had but one rule: I couldn't fight. This was a high-risk, high-reward situation. If I won, Bravos would be mine faster, and I would lose less. But if my champion lost, I would have to stop invading them. "Allow me to fight for you," Sarah Burstyn said, kneeling. "I have fought more duels than any man alive, and I'm still here. Let me win this battle for you." The old knight was right in one thing. He was my best option. My Dothraki weren't good at fighting armored knights, and I wasn't sure Lancelot could win against the first sword. "Bring me honor and glory," I nodded, and I could see as if I had given the man the crown or something. His spirit was fueled with a strong drive to win now. "I will, my king," Ser Barristan said, with his tone sounding as if he was stating a fact, the fact that his victory was assured. Brienne of the Kingsguard POV. I was finally serving the man I loved. I knew I would never be his queen, but this was more than enough. To be his blade was more than enough. Today we were preparing for battle, to battle with Stannis' forces the next dawn, and I was guarding him. But a cold and chilling air invaded my very core, fear turning me blind for a second. Immediately I turned around to see a shadow approaching Renly. "No!" I shouted, rushing to save my king, but it was too late. For all I managed to accomplish was seeing my king being slain by the animated shadow that looked like Stannis. I had failed. I had failed to protect the man I loved. I failed my duty, but I would avenge him. As I had agreed on paper, I had chosen a champion, and with the champion I met in the arena with the Sea Lord of Braavos, ensuring it was both a neutral ground for me and for him. My champion was Ser Barristan, who was more than ready to duel the first sword of Braavos, master of the infamous water-dancing sword style. The crowds in the arena were roaring in anticipation, wanting for the duel to start, and as for me, I was anxious, wondering why the hell I accepted this in the first place. I had already won partially, but it was too late now, so I decided to trust the old knight. And besides, it has been ages since I have seen a proper sword fight where I'm not involved. Taking a deep breath, I stand up and shouted, "Start." Seconds after the two blades clashed, and it was like a lightning storm coming together in one place. Quite impressive being on the other end, seeing a battle unfold with some good wine and food. While many are blinded and deafened by the clashing of metal on metal, I find myself enjoying the thrill of this show, which made me worry a bit. Did I enjoy the possibility of losing, or that someone else was fighting for me? Or perhaps I just liked the fight with no secret motive. The crowd was apparently like me, enjoying the show because they were going wild, some cheering for Barristan and some for the first sword of Braavos. I looked over at the first sword and saw him struggling, but standing his ground against the seasoned knight. In a brief moment he noticed I was looking, and smiled at me with a toothy smile. "The fuck?" I muttered, looking over Barristan. "Kill him now." I had a feeling they were planning something, but what? At my command, Barristan charged at the first sword of Braavos with blinding speed, and while he wasn't nearly as fast as me, it surprised me time. With a singular move his blade flashes in the shock. The first sword of Braavos barely moves out of the way, avoiding lethal damage, but not crippling damage. I knew because of how long the Braavos he took to reach that Barristan was going to be faster, too fast for him to avoid completely. Which is why the first sword of Braavos ended up with Barristan's blade buried on his right shoulder, which made him drop his own sword. Pain and shock froze him for a brief second, and that brief second was all the old knight needed to win. In a swift motion he took his blood-covered blade out of the Braavosi's shoulder, proceeding to sever his head immediately after. The duel was complete. I had won. Barristan turned around and kneeled as he said, "This victory is in honor of my king. Long shall he reign." I won. I turned with a huge smirk on my face to see the Sea Lord of Braavos smiling. "For now," the Sea Lord cackled. "Okay, please enlighten me," I sighed, wondering what they did to think they still had a chance. "Any moment now, the poison in your wine will take effect." The Sea Lord smiled, looking at my wine. "You won the battle, not the war, young bear." "And my men?" I inquired. I had brought 100 guards with me, keeping my army outside, and while I doubted he managed to poison them, I had to ask. People tend to spill everything when sure of their victory, though I wonder how he will react when he finds out I'm immune to poisoning. "Just you," the Sea Lord smiled. "I said I wanted to end this bloodshed, and for that to happen only you have to die. Haha. God fucking damn it," I sighed. "And in your plan, how did you plan to stop me if I decided to kill you before the poison started to work?" The Sea Lord looked at me, and after a second of nothing, probably realizing he didn't plan that far ahead, he unsheathed his blade. "I'm more than enough to kill you." Ha ha ha, I laughed. Which apparently made the Sea Lord really angry. "Oh dear, you were serious. Then please, allow me to laugh even harder. Ha ha ha." "How dare?" The Southard was about to probably say something along the lines of, "I am the best blah blah, but I had enough shit for one day," so I shut him up by putting my hand on his mouth. "And I am done, Sea Lord. While there's absolutely nothing I'd rather do than stand here and listen to you bluster at me, until the heat death of the universe, I literally have a million better things to do, like killing Joffrey." So, with a huge smile, I threw him like a bag of trash into the arena. Loud gasps of shock could be heard around, as I landed beside him. "How dare you?" the Sea Lord cried out in pain. The following act contains violence, coarse language, and adult situations not suitable for minors. Viewer discretion is advised. I chuckled as I grabbed the crying Sea Lord by his shirt, snapping his neck like a stick before he could even process what was about to happen. Time to rip off Perfect Cell even more. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and those idiots that still think you can best me, I am Ronard, and you may recognize me as the young bear, or as the Cal of the West, or perhaps as the mighty conqueror. But that's not what I'm here to talk to about today. Today, I'm making an announcement. At this point I had everyone's attention in the arena, all the nobles of Braavos staring at me. I will take this city, that much is a fact. It can be by blood or not. I'll let the people of Bravos decide. I'm not that bad, but you will only have till tomorrow at noon to decide. Murmurs could be heard among the crowd. Fear spreading among them like a pandemic. Just what I was looking for. Fear breeds submission. That should give everyone plenty of time to prepare and get ready to fight me. Or for those that know that it is impossible to beat me, but are too stubborn to surrender. Time to connect with loved ones. Get your affairs in order. Or maybe just kill someone. Get a purge going. Live a little. Because in 18 hours, I chuckled as I pointed to the dead Sea Lord. So keep that in mind and the shit in your parts, and I'll see you all tomorrow at noon. Also, feel free to pray to your God. But spoilers, I won't be listening. With that, I walked out of the arena with my men following me close behind, leaving a mute audience of nobles that were so shocked by my display they couldn't even muster words. That speech was certainly terrifying, Sarah Baristan said. I learned that from a friend, his name is Sel, I chuckled. Well, he is really good at making things both oddly appealing to the audience and terrifying, Sarah Baristan said. Or sometimes is more about the mind games than the soldiers, I chuckled. That is a wise statement, my king. Sarah Baristan nodded. Gordon Ramsay Ravenicus POV. I was the royal chef for the dragon siblings, and all I did was fucking tasty, corntastic. I was the proud owner of 3 Cornchulin stars. Can I eat it now? Naltharion said, trying to take a bit out of the pig I was roasting. Caw, can't you see is raw, you stupid baboon? I shouted angrily, slapping the young dragon prince away. I will let you know when it's ready to go. Ha ha! Rhaegal laughed. Serves you right, moron. Crow chuckled. The fuck you called moron? Naltharion growled, smoke coming out of his mouth. I can add dragons to the menu. So stop your idiotic activities in my kitchen. I caught at them. Sorry, the 3 young dragons said in one voice. Revos took my threats seriously because the next day before noon, they were openly surrendering. Bravos was finally mine, but there were a few rats inside the city that I had to eradicate before moving forward. The Iron Bank being one of them. They were the main poison inside the city. My city, and I was the antidote. The nobles have completely surrendered, my king, Ser Baristan said as he knelt before me. With a smile, I looked at him and said, Perfect. Send the Unsullied to collect all the nobles of the city, including the bankers. To make sure I wouldn't suffer a coup in the future, I had to first gather all the rats in one place, and then purge the untrustworthy ones, leaving only those that I could trust, because they were loyal, or they feared me. Either one worked. Ser Baristan stood up from the floor and said, As you wish, my king. With that, the old knight departed to carry out my orders, leaving me in my office alone. Now that the city was mine, I had no tangible real reason to stay here. I had my army and no real opposition on this side of the sea, so I had to start planning my invasion of Westeros. Daenerys would remain on this side of the sea to rule over the cities we had conquered as their queen, while I fought the lions in the west. There were many other reasons as to why I wanted to leave her on Essos. For one, she would be safe and sound, and so would the babies. A man is surprised. An unfamiliar voice said in the shadows. Following the sound, I found a man who could only be described as a hobo, but had a dangerous air to it. A faceless man here for another chat, or, I inquired, taking a deep breath. Wondering what did they want this time. The assassin looked at me, his eyes devoid of any emotion and personality, without fear, without anger, nothing but an empty sheet of everything that makes us human. A man wants nothing, a man can't kill you, but a man can hurt you. Immediately my mind went to my children. My wife, if they couldn't kill me, they sure could try and hurt me. But although the idea of my family being hurt terrified me, I had planned ahead against this scenario for a long time. Daenerys had hundreds of animals always keeping an eye on her, and the babies, animals that couldn't be fooled by a fake face. My bears alone could smell strange people from miles away. With a hard look on my face, I turned my gaze to him, as I said, What's to keep me from destroying your region? Velador Dohaeris, Velador Morgulis. The faceless men smiled. All men must serve, and all men must die. We are not afraid of death. We serve it. That much was true. They serve death, and were like roaches hard to kill, because you don't know who belongs to the order unless you see them in person. I'll be honest, I'm confused as to why are you here. A man wanted to strike a deal. The faceless man informed me. Go on, I sighed. Maybe it would be beneficial for me. The assassin began to explain how the only thing his guild wanted to do in exchange of never targeting or attacking my family by any means was for me to allow his guild bury me when I died. Weird request, but I was still a bit skeptic. But when I asked him if they wanted to use my face or something, he said no. That what they wanted was to give me to the god of death personally. So seeing that all they were really asking was to be a free burial service for my old body in the future, I nodded. Deal. A man is pleased. With that, the weird assassin left, leaving me with more questions than answer, but at least I had one less thorn on my ass to worry about, fully at the very least. Well, that was odd, I sighed.
Oberyn Martell POV.
When I arrived at Bravos, I was more than surprised to see the city was completely taken over by the young bear. He had managed to do it in less than a week. That is surprising and terrifying. Just how good was this brat in war? To lead the Dothraki he had to be strong, and to win wars he had to be smart. A really fearsome combination. State you business. I was abruptly stopped by an unsullied warrior, pointing his spear at me. My name is Oberyn Martell. I was sent here by the Queen. I chuckled, taking a step back. I'll let the king now, don't move. Oh, the Unsullied, always straight to business. No fun, but how nostalgic. It reminds me of the old days, when I was traveling around Essos training among them. Rude, at least give me your name. I smiled. Lancelot. Lancelot. Well, that was a weird name for an Unsullied. If I remembered correctly, their masters forced them to change names every day, and their names would usually be something insulting and demeaning. Don't worry, I'll wait here. I waved him off. Ronard Mormont POV. Oberyn has arrived. A tad late, if you ask, but I suppose is the intention what really matters. With his house, I had the support of 2 out of the 6 great houses in Westeros. The Greyjoys were a thing of the past, so I can't count them. Now all I had to do was get some ships and move my army to the west, and start planning my strategy. From the top of my head, I had many ideas, a lot of them involving rats. For King's Landing had thousands of them, but I would have to wait. My king, Oberyn, bowed. Let's get to the point, shall we? I knew what he wanted and he knew what I wanted, so why pretend? I know the only reason your house is joining us is to destroy the Lannister, which is totally fine. I hate those lines for the most part too. But what comes after that, after the destruction of you enemies? What comes next? I didn't want allies that would turn their backs at me once their own personal vendetta was complete. I wanted to know to what extent they would stay. Oberyn looked at me, and after a second of humming started to laugh. A straight-to-business man, I can respect that. Don't worry, you will have Dorne's loyalty, as long as you let us have our retribution. By the end of that, his tone of voice was dark and cold, the complete opposite to his normal cheerful demeanor, as if a switch inside of him had been turned off. Then we won't have a problem. I nodded. If all they wanted in exchange of their loyalty was Tywin, the Mountain, and the other idiot that fucked their family, they could have them. They are yours to do as you please, but leave Joffrey to me. Then, I will do my best to serve you, my king. Oberyn smiled. It was time to go for the crown, but before that I had to make sure that Daenerys had enough military power to hold the cities we had conquered in Essos. Considering that we had an army of 100,000 soldiers, I decided to leave Daenerys with 30% of our army, not counting animals. That way she would be safe, and with enough military strength to fight back. In total, she would have at her disposal 40,000 soldiers, and about 40,000 animals, including horses, bears, ravens, and other animals, leaving her with a total of 80,000 soldiers ready to die for her. Meanwhile, I would take about 65,000 soldiers west to attack the Lannisters, not counting my animals and Neltharion who had begged to go with me. There was no longer any reason for me to stay in Essos. By conquering Bravos and eliminating all rats within the city, I had cemented our power in this continent as something unshakable and unstoppable. I should go with you, Daenerys argued. She was not happy with my decision, and in part, I could understand her. But if she came with me to the west, she would become a target for the Lannisters, whereas if she stayed in Essos, no one would be able to reach her. The Krakens would make sure of that, stopping any ships that weren't mine. I know, honey, but I need you to keep this place under control. You are my queen, and you must rule this continent while I'm away, I said, kissing her hand. I understand, but I don't like it, Daenerys sighed with a faint smile, and in her eyes I could see clear as the day that more than wanting to avenge her family, she didn't want to be separated from me, which made me immensely happy. The fact that she loved me more than she hated those who betrayed her family was impressive, of its own. Abba. Geralt babbled adorably once again, melting my heart. You two are going kill daddy with that cuteness, I chuckled, kissing my son on the forehead. Alyssa, on the other hand, was laughing as she looked at me as if I were the best clown in the world. Is daddy funny? Daenerys asked playfully to our daughter, who answered with more laughter.
Yeah, I chuckled.
Carrying the twins high in the air, my two treasures, I thought with Daenerys I had experienced true love, and in a way I did. But with my kids I felt like gravity wasn't holding me on the ground anymore. It was them. I would kill, die, and suffer for them without hesitation. Reborn Martell POV. After helping my new king eliminate the threats, or rats as he calls them, within Bravos, I decided to test how strong he really was by challenging him to a friendly duel. I knew he was strong. The almost 100,000 Dothrakis following him were more than enough proof, but I still wanted to see just how strong he was. I lost the duel in under 1 minute, and I can't tell that minute was just him being graceful. I wasn't prepared at all for the abysmal difference between our strengths. For the first time in decades I felt like a child fighting against a master, but with the difference that something inside me knew for certain that no matter how much I trained, nothing would shorten that massive gap. But this didn't bother me at all. On the contrary, I preferred to follow a king with strength and intelligence, someone who would lead his army by example, risking his life first, so that others would do the same for him. That's the king of King Dorne would follow, not an entitled brat with a doubtful claim to the throne. We didn't care. He came from a small house, or that he didn't have royal blood within him. In Dorne we judged the person by their worth, not that of their family. Though him having married Daenerys helped, but that only helped him so much. Well, things ought to be fun with him around, I chuckled, eager to leave Essos, and wage war against those rotten lions. Tywin Lannister POV. In a fortunate event, Renly had died in a mysterious way. Some said that a shadow entered his chambers and killed him. Blood magic, others that one of his own knights had betrayed him. In the end, it didn't matter how died, because with Renly out of the picture we could turn this war in our favor. By marrying Joffrey with Margaery Tyrell, we would secure an army that alongside ours would be able to face the young bear and his army. The idiot of a daughter I had was not happy at all with my decision to marry her little mad dog off to a Tyrell. But her opinion on the matter was irrelevant and non-important. Without this alliance we didn't have much of a chance of winning this war. Cersei will not forget this, father, Tyrion said with a sigh. Perfect. Let her. She is not here to rule. If she were, we would have already lost the crown by now. I replied with apathy. Cersei had to understand that she was not as clever as she thought she was. In fact, among my children, she was the most problematic. On that, we can agree. Tyrion laughed for a brief second before asking, with Renly out of the way, we can focus on dealing with Stannis. We still have time before the young bear arrives. Any ideas? I glanced at Tyrion for a second as he filled his cup of wine before I answered, Stannis is more experienced in the art of war than his little brother was in the art of war, but he is as charismatic as a cow. He doesn't inspire loyalty out of love or fear. He will fall in his time. I see, Tyrion hummed, sitting back on his chair. Olenna Tyrell, the sorry excuse of a man whom we had allied with had died, and in part I was thankful. This, of course, led the lions to invite us to their side immediately. Maybe they killed him, or maybe they were desperate with the imminent threat that Renard Mormont represented. They wanted to marry Margaery to that little demon named Joffrey. Rumors of his cruelty and madness had already spread far and wide across the Seven Kingdoms, and I was not going to allow my granddaughter to suffer at his hands. Margaery would be queen, but not with that spawn of the hell, as her king Tommen Baratheon. On the other hand was, as rumors say, soft, king-hearted, and more importantly manipulable. Joffrey had to die. Besides that not like anyone but his mother would miss him, but I doubt even Cersei is that blind to love that thing. When are we going to the capital, grandmother? Margaery inquired, content with the idea of marrying hastily to secure her position of queen. In 1 month, I answered with a faint smile. Poor naive child. Good thing she has me to protect her. Otherwise the idiot of a son I have would doom her to a life suffering. Jon Snow POV. Humanity was in grave danger. The others, the White Walkers, existed and were moving, evolving, ever-changing. I had to let others know they were real. But before I managed to escape, a cold voice stopped me. Humanity's time has run out. You now walk upon the darkness, child. The light won't protect you here, young dragon. Nothing will. The undead said with a cold tone, the same one that had killed my entire scout party. All will serve in death. After making sure Daenerys had everything under control, I proceeded to mobilize all the ships, which were barely enough to move all the men and animals I was moving over the west. My initial destination would be the north, where I would go to see Lord Stark, to discuss the terms of our alliance. Then I would let my army rest so that everyone would be at their best when the war really began. It will take us a month to get there, Oberyn sighed in annoyance, but I suppose it worth the wait. With how you act, I would have thought you loved traveling. Was that assumption incorrect? I inquired as I kept my gaze on the sea. I love traveling, Otori replied with a soft chuckle. What I hate is the waiting, the time in between. Understandable, I nodded in agreement. As I walked to my cabin, leaving Oberyn alone, my mission was to get some peace and quiet. How oblivious I was, that concept was now impossible for me. Not only I was a king, I was a dad, which made peace and quiet an impossibility for me. And that concept was reaffirmed in my room. Because upon entering said room, I found Nelsarian fighting with one of the battle bears, both locked on the floor biting each other on an epic duel of, I don't know. A quick glance to my bed reveals it had been torn to pieces by the collateral damage of this fight. Nelsarian had taken it upon himself to fight anyone, and when I asked him why, he would only answer that he wanted to be as strong as me and he needed the experience, which usually made me ignore his odd behavior, because, well, I'm not made out of stone. That he wants to be like me is adorable, and pushes all the right buttons for me to let him do his thing. I'm too tired to be dealing with this shit. I sighed as I walked out of the room, not wanting to diffuse whatever situation they had. My new destination, my backup room, a room especially designed for these types of emergencies. Jon Snow POV. Fear was a common thing. You can deal with it, but that doesn't make you fearless. All my life I had dealt with my fears. But what I saw that day, that thing, how his mere presence made me the grip of death, that was something I wasn't prepared to deal with. Don't be afraid, I won't kill you, yet. But let the bear know I'm coming for him, and in my path, all life will end. I had been forgiven, spared just because I served a purpose, a menial purpose to deliver a message. I wanted to fight, I wanted to kill that thing for what it did to my brothers in the Watch. But my entire body refused to raise a finger against him. No matter how hard I tried, all I could do was see him leave, not before he desecrated even more my fallen brothers by raising them from the death to be nothing but mere puppets. Humanity as a whole was at risk. The crown, the lands, the power, nothing would matter if we didn't stop that monster. This was bigger than me, bigger than the Game of Thrones, and more importantly, bigger than my oath to the Watch. I had to break my oath, and even if I ended up dead because I had deserted the Watch, it would be worth it if I managed to warn just one person. We are leaving tonight, Ghost. I petted my one trustworthy friend, who tilted his head in confusion. Lord Snow, hurry up and go and clean the gates. One of my superiors shouted. This was my opportunity. No one ever supervised me when cleaning the gates that were going south. No one suspected of me. After all, I came here out of my free will. This was perfect, especially because it was night. It would take them a while to notice I was gone, and by the moment they did notice, it would be too late. Yes, sir, I nodded, going to the gates with Ghost behind me. Hours passed by, and my moment to escape finally came, when the Watch was switching the men to watch over the tower. I ran, like never before, knowing full well that if I stopped even for a second, my life would be forsaken. I had to, for I no longer was fighting for myself, but for the living. I had to survive just 1 month. That's all the time I needed to get back to Winterfell and warn my father of this. Young Griff POV. Ronard Mormont was the biggest threat to my reign. He had a massive army. He was good at leading, and he was married to my aunt. All I had was the Golden Company, and that wasn't enough to deal with him. Not only he was a thorn on my side on SO, but he was also one in Westeros. My sources say he has alliances with Dorne in the north. There was a chance I could win Dorne over by offering them my hand in marriage, but I had a feeling I would die before I even managed to move with that plan. So I had to resort to other means to achieve what I wanted. I had heard stories of how the free folk are numerous and good at fighting, and how they would do anything to go across the wall. Them alone were more than enough to fight Ronard, perhaps even outnumber his army, and all I had to do in order to win was offer the Wilding what they have always wanted, their freedom, in exchange for loyalty. Are you sure this is the best idea, my king? John Connington inquired. It is, I nodded. We need the army, for the bear to fall. The Golden Company is with you, my king, the commander of the Gold Company said, kneeling. I'm glad, my friends, I smiled, for we are about to venture to Wildlands. We are going beyond the wall. We'll follow you there, and to hell if necessary, my king. My men chanted. And I knew things would turn just fine. I was born to be king, and no bear would stand chance against a true dragon. Daenerys POV. Ranard had left. Once again these days, it seemed like our time together was a thing of the past, now, and while I knew it was for our cause, I couldn't help but miss him. But I had to play my part. He was trusting me to keep Essos under control, and I would do more than that. I would conquer the rest of Essos in our name. So when the time to go west comes, nothing will ever tear off apart. I had Crow and Riegle with me. With them I would destroy our enemies on this side of the sea, with blood and fire, for my husband, and more importantly for my kids. What are your orders, my queen? Daisy inquired. We are going to Yunkai, I informed her. We are taking that city. I will finish what my husband started. I will eliminate our enemies. Daisy looked at me for a second before kneeling. My sword is yours to command. I would die for you. Not because you are my queen, but because you are my family. I smiled, and I am glad every day of my life to be part of it. My words were nothing but the truth, and because of it, I would protect them, with fire and blood. My trip to Westeros was pretty much uneventful, with some minor problems, but most of them were Neltarian fighting animals, because of his so-called training. The north was just as I remembered, cold and oddly welcoming. I kinda missed the non-complicated days where all I had to worry about was my house. Here we are, Oberyn muttered. I don't know how you northerners survive in here, so cold. I suppose some northerners would say the same about Dorne. I chuckled. Fair enough, Oberyn nodded. We continued chatting about random stuff as we approached Bear Island. From afar I could see my great aunt waiting for me with my men and the remaining bears on the island. It took my ship around 20 minutes to get to the coast, where I jumped out of the ship landing in front of my aunt with a big smile. Hello there, I smiled. You'll be the death of me, Maggie sighed with a chuckle. Doubt it. I gave her a look that said, your two daughters are maybe worse than me, going to another continent and stuff. Well, every Mormont woman is crazy one way or another, Maggie laughed. I hummed, pretending I was deep in thought before nodding. I can testify to that. So what can we do, for your highness? Maggie said as she knelt, no sign of hesitation, no anger at me for going for the crown, nothing. I actually expected her to be a tad more volatile this reunion. Well, for now, any news? I inquired. The Starks pledged themselves to you, and offer a betrothal between Daisy and Robb, Maggie informed me, which in turn immediately made me laugh, to the point of gasping for air. I knew they wanted to marry Robb to Daisy, not that I would accept, but if Daisy accepted this proposal, I can already tell who will be the lady on that equation. I'm sorry, I finally managed to say, after composing myself a bit, but every time I imagine them together, it makes me laugh. Meg has eyed me for a second before starting to laugh. I thought I was the only one. Anyway, we are going to rest here for a couple days before leaving to Winterfell, I said, deciding to go back on track. In the meantime, you are in charge of accommodations. Also start gathering our men, Ironborns included. We will march full strength soon, so it's better to have them ready. As you wish, Maggie nodded. Perfect, I smiled. Jon Snow POV. I have no idea how long I've been running, hiding, making sure my brothers in the watch don't catch me. It has been a rough for me by this time. I thought I would be home with my family, but evading the party they had sent after me had derailed me from my original path. But I had to persevere. My life was inconsequential in the great scheme of things. I was but a mere messenger, but one with a very important message. That night will forever haunt me. The night I fully realized I was too weak. A bastard that couldn't even die right. But besides the fact that winter was coming for us all, there was another thing that didn't make much sense to me. Why did that monster refer to me that way? Calling me a dragon, did that have something to do with my mother? No, I must focus. I'm the only that knows about the dangers beyond the wall. What or how that monster talked to me is irrelevant right now. If we keep this pace, we should be one in 1 or 2 weeks. Ghost, I petted my companion. Growl. Ghost tilted his head. I don't know, but we are in it together, I chuckled, feeling as if he asked me what would be of us after we delivered the message. I would probably die for deserting the watch, but Ghost could stay with my family. After all, he didn't break an oath. Ned Stark, POV. Jon had deserted the watch. A raven from the wall had arrived with this problematic news. This was unexpected and unbecoming of him. Why would he do such a thing? Why would he abandon his oaths? He must have a reason to do it. But what? He was safe on the wall. He was finally out of everyone's reach. I promised his mother, my sister, I would keep him safe from this world, from this game, and he was safe in the wall. If the wrong person discovered his real identity, it would be the end of him. Ronard would kill him if he thought Jon represented a threat to his claim, and even if that didn't come to happen, the Watch would claim his head for deserting them. So the only way to protect my son was finding him first.
Jon, were you?
I muttered. Ronard Mormont, POV. 3 days later, Jon had deserted the Watch. Well, that was unexpected. I always thought him to be the kind of guy that never misses a day of work and follows every rule in the book. Then again, in the TV show, he kinda banged a wilding, the supposed natural enemy of the Watch, so perhaps he is a rebel in disguise. And now he was going to die because of it. Nonsense! How utterly stupid the system of the wall is. I can understand criminals being forced to stay and never fuck, but volunteers should follow different rules. Jon is an idiot, not going to sugarcoat that, but he is a good idiot. One that happens to fill or fit a position I had in mind. With his total lack of ambition, the job was made for him. Jon Targaryen, Lord of House Targaryen, he would be the perfect lord, being that he would be the only one not trying to stab me for power. All right, I nodded, deciding I would help the stupid wolf out of this situation. So with a smile I ran out of my room, to Oberyn's. Oh, for the love of Dorne, you need a bell, Oberyn chuckled, pointing out I had startled him. What can I do for you, my king? Well, how do you feel about going to hunt a missing crow? I smiled. You aren't giving me much information. But yeah, sure, I'm in. Oberyn smirked, but if you wanted time alone, we don't need excuses. I slowly raised an eyebrow as I said, you are barking at the wrong tree, pal. I don't swing that way. Oberyn smiled. You can't judge a man for trying, now can you? I can, and I am. I wasn't really sure if he was confident on his sex appeal or was delirious. Just don't tell the queen, Oberyn muttered. I would make a terrible Unsullied. Yeah, I kinda wanna now. I smirked at him, wondering what the hell did my beautiful wife tell him, for him to lose his cool demeanor for a second. Oh well, on the bright side, I already have a bunch of kids. So I suppose it already served its purpose. Oberyn laughed. I have to admit, Oberyn is an interesting guy that even on the sight of losing his best friend, he keeps on smiling and joking and messing around. I wonder if everyone in Dorne is like him. Nothing against your preferences, but don't hit on me again. Got it, I informed him. Duly noted, but it was mostly a joke to be honest. Oberyn chuckled. How so? I inquired. Since the day we had our little duel, Oberyn sighed, I was made aware of the vast difference between our skills. And I don't like that. I like to be the one leading. If you catch my drift. But I was curious to see how you would react to me hitting on you. Frankly, better than your wife. She can be quite territorial. Oh, I see, I nodded as I pushed him against wall, holding his body by neck above the ground with my hand. If you hit on my wife again, let's just say your brother will be able to kick your ass from that wheelchair of his. Understand? Scratch my last statement, Oberyn coughed, gasping for air. You two are territorial. Then don't mess with us, I growled. Roger that, Oberyn nodded, his eyes turning a bit red before I dropped him. Wow, well, good to know your triggers before I trigger them. Anyway, what was that about us hunting a crow? Finding Jon was easy, barely an inconvenience. Being that I had over 100 ravens looking for him, it took a few hours to get his location, and another few to arrive where he was. From afar, I could see he was tired, like he hadn't slept for quite a while. His entire setting was depressing. By his side there was a big white dire wolf, quite the creature, majestic if I might add. A few hundred meters away, I could hear the hounds from the watch, coming for him, howling in their persecution. We are looking for that kid. Why? Oberyn chuckled. He has a role to fill, and is the only one I know that can. I rolled my eyes at the old snake as I slided through the snow towards John. It took a few moments, but his wolf was the first one to notice me. Ghost immediately put on a defensive position in front of John, making me chuckle. How adorable, I wrestle with dragons. A wolf is a day in the spa for me these days. Hell there, I rolled towards John, landing on a perfect T-pose. Renard, John muttered in disbelief, questioned what his eyes were seeing. And that's Oberyn said, as he rolled beside me. Oberyn, that was fun. See, you can do stuff with all the snow around, I chuckled. I have something important to tell you, John said, coming back to the living world, after a minute of processing my sudden appearance. No time to waste, I chuckled, pointing to where the dog sounds were coming. They are coming for you, and I would rather avoid killing people to save your sorry ass. I wouldn't mind, killing people can be quite fun. Oberyn smiled. Don't pay attention to him, he is crazy, I sighed. Aren't we all my king? Aren't we all? Oberyn laughed. Ignoring Oberyn, I called the 3 horses I had brought with me, giving one to John, and immediately rode us to Winterfell. For the apples, one of the horses shouted with a bloodthirsty smile. We aren't fighting Asmo, nor we will fight anytime soon. A more calmed horse said, taking a deep breath. Well, we can still ride for the apples. They are good either way. My horse commented. Eventually I started to tune out their conversation, as I focused on the scenery around us. From where we had found John to Winterfell, it took us roughly 5 hours on horse, which on foot would have taken John a couple days or more. I already had some men waiting for us in Winterfell, around 300 to be precise. These guys were ones that I had brought with me beside Oberyn to help me with this hunt, but in reality I had brought them for no real reason, besides giving their salaries a reason to exist. I'm finally here, John said with a faint smile. Probably thinking his father would cut his head for deserting his brothers in the Watch. The kid is making me feel depressed, Oberyn said, eyeing Job. I don't like feeling sad. I have but 3 emotions. Angry, horny, and happy. I don't want a 4th. Make it stop. I had to stifle my overwhelming desire to laugh, as to avoid making John feel even worse. It's okay, John. No one will kill you, today at least. I don't fear death, John sighed. I was ready to die the moment I decided to break my oaths. Once I deliver the message I came to deliver, I will be fully ready to embrace death. I eyed him for a second before sighing, You know nothing, Jon Snow. That feels like something catchy, like a motto. Oberyn smirked at Jon. I like it, I will use it now. Perhaps death is a gift, Jon muttered, glaring at Oberyn, as he followed us, as we entered Winterfell. Inside the walls of Winterfell, there was all the Starks waiting for us. Practically in the same formation they had when they welcomed Robert Baratheon in the show. Ned Stark was the first one to greet me, with a smile that tried hard to hide his doubts, not of following me, but wondering if I still resented him. My king, I have kept the North safe for you, Ned Stark said, as he eyed me for a second, before adding, You have changed a lot. I nodded. Lord Stark, good to see you alive. I'm glad my countermeasures to keep the North stable worked. That was partly a lie. I had originally made the deal with Varys to save the girls. Him surviving all that shit wasn't a factor I'd bother to consider at the moment. But that doesn't mean I won't milk this cow, forever reminding him he is alive because of me. All thanks to you, your grace, Ned Stark smiled. My wife, Catelyn Stark. Approaching Lady Stark, as Lord Stark was presenting her, I noticed she was practically murdering me with her gaze full of disgust and hate. The love is palpable, I chuckled. Excuse me, my lady. Oberyn approached her with his trademark smile. I would love to invite you to Dorne. I'm sure my people can weaponize the venom coming out of your eyes, putting it to better use. Everyone gasped in shock, while Arya and I shared a silent chuckle. Don't waste your poison on that man. He is quite resilient. Believe I know. You can't fool me. You are and will forever be a small good for nothing. Peasant, and if I had it my way, you would be dead by now. Catelyn hissed at me. But you will soon, so don't trust anyone in the North. Your grace. Cat it, Ned shouted. By this point his face red with anger or embarrassment. Oberyn approached me and whispered with a smile, I haven't seen someone hold this amount of hate since Cersei Lannister, and let's just say it's not normal. You are nothing but a... Catelyn was about to start her verbal assault, but a glare stopped her for a moment. I'm not interested in the puny thoughts of an idiot, I said, making sure each word was loud and clear. Ned tried to approach and defuse the situation, but Oberyn took a step forward with a smile that said, "Take another step and we'll be dancing. I won't stand and let my family follow it." Taking a step forward, I closed the gap between us, making her fall to the ground, fear starting to sink in on her head. "Not only you have disrespected me, but also decided to waste my time with your sorry presence. So next time you would do well to remember your place and bow," I growled, seeing the tension building up around. Robb was like a cat, ready to pounce at me. Ned was on the same situation with Oberyn. One wrong move, and a brawl would break free. I won't allow," Catelyn started, but I wasn't going to let her talk. "Shut your mouth," I shouted loud enough to make an echo thundered through the city, making the birds fly out the trees in alarm, and in turn making Catelyn immediately comply. "You have failed your house and your family, and your only chance to redeem yourself is to obey this simple order. You are to never show your face again to me, or leave Winterfell. Meanwhile, I will take the crown, rule the Seven Kingdoms, and in the process, I will take immense satisfaction in knowing you couldn't do anything but comply. Is that clear?" Shepton was shaking at this point, sweating her own weight by the second. I made sure to let her know with my eyes, should she speak again, I would kill her. Catelyn nodded, lost in thought. "Good," I nodded as I turned to the Starks. "I'm not without mercy, but if she ever threatens me again, I will give you a choice. Lord Stark, killing her or going to war with me, either way, she will die. All your choice changes is the amount of corpses you are choosing to leave behind. So remember that should she cross that line again, is that clear?" "Crystal," Ned Stark nodded. "Maybe I had been a tad rough with her and the Starks, but the bitch just said she wanted me dead and would make sure of it. This shit was the sequel for real. Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch." After the little incident with Lady Stark, we continued the introductions. Sansa's among them. She smiled and hugged me, thanking me for saving her family, and wished me a happy marriage. That was unexpected. As for Robb, he was between a thin line of wanting to protect his mother and knowing she fucked up. After that really uncomfortable moment, we went to a private room to discuss a few certain things. For one, Jon wanted to tell me something that he said was really important, and considering he was in the Wall recently, I can already tell what. Ned, on the other hand, wanted to discuss our alliance, and his son betrothal, which we had accepted, but under the condition the arrangement could be broken at any given time, if Daisy deemed the boy unworthy of her time. On my part, I wanted to discuss and start planning our strategy against the Lannisters. "Father, King Ronard, winter is coming," Jon said with a dreadful look on his face. Fear very prominent on his entire self, confirming my suspicions. "And?" Oberyn inquired. "Summer is coming and you don't see me crying." I chuckled, turning to Jon, letting him I wanted him to continue. "I saw them, the White Walkers from the stories. They are coming," Jon said, his expression filled with a deep fear that somehow was overruled by his strong sense of duty. "Yawn, that's a child's story," Ned Stark said, with a worried expression. His son was going crazy. "No, it's not," I said before Jon could even defend himself. "Elaborate," Oberyn inquired with a serious expression. He knew I rarely joked or messed around. "It's one of the main reasons I decided to get the crown, because alone we stand no chance against the army of the death." I sighed. For the first part, I had no idea how strong the Night King was, and secondly, his army was probably bigger than mine as of now. Jon was surprised and relieved I believed him while Ned was mostly confused. "Dragons are real. Magic is real. The White Walkers are, if you think about it, pretty believable." "How do you know they are real?" Ned inquired. I could see on his face he didn't believe me. "The same reason fire doesn't work on me," I answered. It was partly a lie, but it would get the job done. The same way I knew how to hatch the dragon eggs, and the same way I knew you would die if I didn't save you. "How?" Oberyn inquired. "The god of light, or Remo." I sighed. I didn't like giving him credit for all of that. But when in doubt how to explain something, use the default option, faith. "I didn't consider you to be the religious type," Oberyn said, tilting his head, and he was right for the most part. I fucking hated the gods of this world. "I'm not fuck this god. He put a bunch of responsibilities on me. And all he gave me for this important mission was the ability to survive the one thing the others don't use. Fire," I spat. "Like for real. Make me ice resistant or something. Yes, the fire thing helped me to hatch the dragons. But besides that, it would be a useless skill." "A god told you," Ned said with a tone that said, I don't believe jack of what you are saying. I know it's hard to believe, but I have proof. I sighed, knowing the best way to make them believe me was showing them something so hard to dismiss. They would have to accept my word as facts. Let's try and burn me, shall we? Well, now this is interesting. Oberyn commented with a chuckle. It was time to show the world that I couldn't be burned, and that fear would at least make the White Walker's god stories sound less crazy. So with that in mind, I proceeded, ordering a servant to set a campfire outside. Once the fire was set, I put my naked hand on the fire for 5 minutes. This is interesting, Oberyn muttered, looking at my hand with complete shock, seeing how the fire burned the wood, but left my hand intact. Impressive, only the Targaryens were known for this uncommon feat, and not even all of them. It was said that just some privileged bunch among them were blessed with dragon blood, and like you had this unique fireproof ability. Well, I'm no Targaryen, I chuckled, my hand still on the fire. Impressive, Jon added, looking at my hand closely. That much is true, Oberyn chuckled. Turning around, I noticed something that I didn't expect. Ned Stark was worried, terrified, his eyes fixated on my hand, but I could see it wasn't the fact I couldn't be burned that worried him, but something else that bothered him. And then it hit me. What was happening through his head was Jon. He must have tried this with Jon at some point in his life, when he was a baby or something. Either that or Jon touched fire by mistake, and this situation is putting him on an edge. But there is a Targaryen among us. I smiled, giving Oberyn a look. Oberyn's eyes widened in surprise as he immediately put all the dots together. The fact that we had come to save Jon, and that I promised him he wouldn't die. I never expected that of the Honorable Wolf, to betray his friend that hard. Oh, this is priceless, Oberyn laughed, his eyes glued on Jon. Ned Stark was at this point sweating, which was by itself very hard, considering the temperature around us. I don't know what. It's okay, I won't hurt him, I sighed. If there was someone I wanted to be a lord was Jon. He had no ambition, and was loyal as fuck. Who? What is going on? Jon asked, looking at his father. You, I pointed at Jon. Man, no, I'm a bastard, Jon said with the utmost confidence of what he was saying. Nope, your father is actually your uncle. This comment made Ned tense up. Your mother was Lyanna Stark and your father was Rhaegar Targaryen. Oberyn finished for me. It all makes sense now. Ned Stark breaking his oaths. That was hard to believe, but him lying was even harder to believe. We always assumed Jon's mother was Ashara Dane, but even that was far-fetched. Father, tell me is a lie, or a joke of bad taste. Please? Jon said, confusion, doubts, and uncertainty on his eyes. He was starting to believe our words had some merit. You won't hurt him? Ned inquired, ignoring Jon. Never. I mean, if he tries to hurt me, then yes, but otherwise, we are good. And that was the truth. I would never hurt Jon, just because he had Targaryen blood, because of how he was raised. I knew I could trust him. Father. Jon was on the verge of melting down, his emotions fluctuating like a Christmas light. It's true, Jon, Ned said with a faint smile. Know that this doesn't change anything. I love you, and you will always be my son. Know that I didn't want to lie to you, but it was the only way to save you, to keep you out of Robert's sight. All this time, my mother was right underneath us, and Jon said with tears rolling down his face. All this time I thought I was a mistake, an error, something that shouldn't have existed. Jon, Ned Stark said, approaching to try and hug the crying man. You let everyone hurt me, Jon shouted, anger, finally taking over. Lady Stark, Theon, everyone in the household, you let them treat me like trash. And the worst part was that I felt like I deserve it. Why? You could have told Lady Stark at least. To be fair with him, Lady Stark is not the smartest gal around, so it was wise of him to not tell her. Then again, I don't really know if she knows how to keep a secret. While it was true, Ned managed his situation quite badly. He didn't do everything badly. My experiences with Lady Stark say she would have killed Jon by telling her sister or something. Shut up, Jon cried out. Hey, I know right now you are going through an emotional moment and all, but try that again and I will introduce you to the ground. And believe me, your relationship with it will be intimate. I warned Jon. I will steal that phrase, Oberyn said as he wrote what I said on a piece of paper. Let's give them a moment, I sighed, deciding to let the two wolves talk their shit out. I have a feeling that if I stay, I will end up beating the crap out of an emotional teen, and I know I will feel bad about later. Fair enough, Oberyn chuckled, following me close behind. Caw, we will stay. Caw. Caw, this is too good to miss. I bet, motherfucker. Oh, punch, motherfucker, B. Caw. Was that a raven with a black coat and an eye patch? Jon and Ned argued for hours to no end about their little problem, while Oberyn and I passed the time in one of the rooms outside trying to avoid the altercation, waiting patiently for both wolves to stop arguing. I knew they needed some alone time, ergo why I had been playing with Oberyn different games for the last 5 hours. You are unbelievably good at this game, Oberyn commented, moving one of the pieces. Thanks, I smiled, moving my queen to checkmate him. Once again I have lost, Oberyn sighed. While I love being destroyed in every single game we play, don't you think those two had enough time to deal with this? Maybe, I don't really know. They need to work things out themselves. I shrugged as I set the pieces back in place in the chessboard. I suppose. Well, I already lost 50 games, Oberyn chuckled. I don't think losing 50 more will make my self-esteem go any lower than already is. Oh, come on. Is not that bad? I chuckled. Who in their right mind would play if they knew defeat was their only path? Oberyn said, and well, he had a point. He had been losing since we got here. Fair enough, I conceded, as if in cue Jon entered the room, his eyes red from what I assume was all the crying he did. Well, I inquired. Please tell me you two solved this. Oberyn inquired with a bored expression. I will kill someone if you said you didn't, and I already tried with Runnord, and that's impossible, so that leaves you and your father. Oberyn said in a playful manner, but I couldn't be too sure. He was unpredictable at times. I'm sorry for the way I behaved, my king, Jon apologized, probably for the way he shouted at me a few hours ago. Apology accepted, I smiled as Ned Stark entered the room behind him. We are ready to talk about the walkers, Ned Stark informed us. I eyed the two wolves for a second, wondering if I should try and see if they fixed their shit up, before realizing I didn't care if they patched up or not. I wasn't a family counselor or something. Very well, I nodded. Finally, Oberyn smiled, happy to do anything but play games with me. There wasn't much to discuss about the White Walkers and how to deal with them, because the plan was still the same. I would put the 7 kingdoms under one banner and face the long night of winter with humanity. No, with the living as one, only then we would have a chance against the others. A part of me was confident I could face this challenge, like I had done before, with other challenges. But another part of me knew I could still lose. It wasn't a single man I was facing, but an army that doesn't slow down, an army that is fearless and has nothing to lose. I was but one man, against a monster, but I would have to find a way to win. For my kids, for my wife, I didn't care about anything else but ensuring they survived. I'm ready to be turned in to the Watch, Jon said with determination. Well, too bad that ain't gonna happen, I sighed. You are part of almost extinct house. You are needed elsewhere. I made an oath, Jon said, making me wonder how the hell someone so stupid survived this long. I'm the king, and I get to decide if that wall gets you or not, I said with a tone that depicted that I wasn't leaving any rooms for arguments. You are Jon Targaryen, the Lord of House Targaryen. You are needed on the living Jon, and you know it. We will face the long night, and we need every man. I'm not fit to be a lord, Jon said with his head low. No one really is. This game fucks with your mind. Believe me, I know. I chuckled as I poked him in the forehead. But we do the best we can, and I know you will. Now, stop whining, get your lordy pants up and shut up. Jon Targaryen was about to start with the same repeated line about how he made an oath and blah blah. But a simple glare was more than enough to silence his whining. I will fight for the living, as one of your lords, my king. Besides, the Watch won't be complaining too much. Of that you have my word. I smiled. My plan was simple, to buy their compliance with gold or men. I'm sure they would happily let Jon go if they got better equipment or more men. Of course this plan could still fail, in which case I would use force to subdue them. So I suppose I will see when the time comes. You won't kill them, right? Jon inquired, with a worried expression. Oh God, no. I hummed deep in thought. I'm down either way, Oberyn commented, with a happy smile. There won't be any killing, Ned Stark said, entering the conversation. While very rare and uncommon, is not impossible to get out of the watch, especially if you have a king on your side and the commander doesn't complain about it, which I doubt he will. So you practically have your freedom back already, son. Well, that settles that, I smiled. Sansa Stark, POV. Ronard was different, more mature, more handsome, and more frightening. I wonder what kind of things he has gone through to be how he is today. Father always said, war changes a man. I suppose, it's true, and if I know him like I think I do, he must be doing almost everything by himself, which most have him on a constant edge. But it didn't matter how much he had changed, because deep down he was the same guy that changed my life, saved my family, and showed me that life was more than following my role. Runard sure looks awesome, Arya said as she practiced with her new rapier. I wonder how strong he is. Well, he has yet to lose a battle, I giggled. I read the Dothraki only follow the strong, and that the cows must be undefeated to rule. And he has the biggest Khalasar in history, right? Arya inquired excitedly. Yes, I nodded. Then I have to train extra hard if I want to be his best warrior, Arya smiled, as she continued with her training. I'm sure he will be delighted to hear that. I smiled at my little sister, Catelyn Stark, POV. Fear was the main emotion I felt when thinking of Ronard now. I was afraid of him. His eyes promised me death should I cross him again. I had never seen such a monster before. He wasn't the young man I had met years ago, nor the bear of the stories that came across the sea. No, he was a monster. A very dangerous one. Please gods guide me, I prayed, as I begged the Seven to help me. Ronard POV. Outside Winterfell. After a long day of seeing two grown men cry, I decided to go out for a walk. To cool my mind off, working every day of the week can be quite taxing, and walking does wonders to a troubled mind. Hello, a cold icy sharp voice said, startling the crap out of me. With my sword out, I turned around fast like a thunder, to notice that the voice came from a raven, but this wasn't one of my ravens. No, this one was clearly dead, or at least it should be, because it was showing its empty ribcage with no organs. The fact that his eyes were glowing blue pretty much gave that shit away. You are? Inquired, knowing the answer myself already. A dead talking bird only meant one thing, the fucking Night King. You know, the bird said in an emotionless tone. I came here to warn you, to tell you, you won't win. No matter how many men you gather, or how many monsters you tame in the end. You are alone, child, and whether you want to admit it or not, there is only darkness and death awaiting for you and your people. No victory is truly assured. I glared at the bird. A mortal sentiment that doesn't apply to me, for I will command an unstoppable army that will lay waste on the living until every light in this world has been extinguished. The raven said with somehow an even colder tone that I could swear made the temperature drop a bit. I will stop you, so don't get your hopes too high, I said with determination. You are strong, Renard, that much is true, but I am beyond strength. I beyond the living. I am the end, and I have come for all of you, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. The undead raven said, so enjoy the time you have left, for it's the last breath the living will take in this world. With that, the raven fell to the ground dead. Fuck, I shouted. The Night King wasn't like I had expected, at all. In the show he was but a pseudo-mindless monster, leading an army of mindless drones. But this Night King was capable of critical thinking, something I had failed to account all this time, but he had made a terrible mistake. He revealed one of his cards too soon. This, while beneficial, didn't make my fight against him any easier. In terms of combat abilities, I wasn't so sure if I was above him or on equal terms. Perhaps he was stronger, but that wasn't the part that had me on the edge. Which really had me worried was that, unlike him, I couldn't control all my army as if they were an extension of my own body. My men make mistakes. They are humans, capable of fear, hate, and doubt. His army didn't have any of that. They followed orders without hesitation, without fear, without doubt. Because his will was their will, they would obey and carry out his demands no matter how hard and unreasonable they were. And, to add a cherry on the top, his army would only grow in numbers. For every man the White Walkers killed, a new walker would rise. Fuck, I growled, punching the tree where the Night King Raven had been. But even in the hardest situations, victory is a possibility. I had to exploit what I knew about them, their weaknesses. If the Night King was smart now, it was pretty possible he was already aware of his one weakness. Valyrian steel. That and the fact that if he died, every soldier would. So knowing that and putting myself in his shoes, I knew he would probably avoid direct confrontation if he wasn't sure of his victory, which meant I had to weaken his army. The only known weaknesses that the White Walkers have shown were their vulnerability to weapons made of dragon glass or Valyrian steel, and fire. But their weaknesses weren't all equally effective. For example, in the show it was shown that a White Walker, upon being stabbed by dragon glass, would make its body change as if freezing, slowly turning to ice from the point at which it was stabbed, causing the walker apparently a massive amount of pain. Depending on where the walker was stabbed, it will depend how long it takes the monster to die. Eventually the walker will succumb to the wound and begin to crack and fall apart, as its icy body shatters until there is nothing left but powder. On the other hand, Valyrian steel is exceptionally better at dealing with them, having the same effect but working much rapidly, shattering White Walkers with a single blow regardless of where said blow is. But not only that, Valyrian steel is also the only metal capable of parrying White Walker weapons that are entirely made out of magic, making it so that normal steel can't handle them at all, because it shatters on contact with the magic weapon. Fire was the weakest weakness in part, killing the walkers but being the slowest method available, but the most exploitable. I already knew how to make small explosives that would set things on fire and or kill a man, and if I tweaked that right, I could improve my explosive with dragon glass, making a pseudo nail bomb, but instead of nail it would be an explosive packed with dragon glass shards to maximize damage dealt to the White Walkers. I need to make weapons for everyone. 2 wars to win, so little time, I muttered, knowing full well that if I didn't bring my A game to this war, I would lose. If I made one wrong move, the others would win, and I would be the sole responsible of their victory. Because for all I knew, my presence made their imminent threat massively higher than it originally was. If only I had more information about these fuckers, perhaps I could devise a plan to stop them. Holy shit. The children. And then it hit me. The children of the forest had created them, and at one point they even controlled them, so they had to know more about them. How the fuck did forgot about them? But the last known children of the forest were beyond the wall with the 3-eyed raven, and I had no way of getting there without dying. The Night King had proven that he had the ability to spy on me if I didn't play my cards right. With his undead ravens and animals, he could hunt me down and kill me the moment I went beyond the wall. You know, if you really want to help humanity, this would be a great time to pitch in. I shouted and waited and nothing happened. What a surprise. A fucking god that does nothing. Damn it! With anger, I punched the tree with all my strength once more, which made some snow fall down on me. And considering all the shit of today, that would have been my highlight. But something else caught my attention. The snow of it melted, going from snow to water to steam.
Uka, what the fuck?
I looked around me, noticing the snow around my feet started to do the same. This in turn threw me even more out of loop, turning my anger into confusion. Whatever I had done stopped immediately after, because soon the snow covered whatever I did melted. 3-eyed raven POV. The Night King has changed. He had evolved. One night he was one thing. The next he was somehow an even bigger monster. Coordinated with conviction, it was my duty to try and stop him. I was humanity's watcher. But since he changed, I had been trapped, unable to fly. He knows I can't control animals that are dead or that are too far away from me. So he has killed every animal in the area, leaving me a mocking message behind. You are nothing now. Stay here and watch humanity fall as you rot. He had cut my wings, and through the visions on the tree, I couldn't contact people. All was left in the hands of that anomaly. Ronald Mormont, the boy that shouldn't have lived. He changed the song, he changed the history beyond comprehension, and it was now on his hands to win this. With that in mind, all I could do was watch him. I will go and see the promised one. It's all you can do now, Leaf sighed. The first thing I found once the magic of the tree took me to Ronald was that he was angry, punching a tree, but what I saw after that, nothing I had seen before. It was as if his body heated so much that the snow turned into steam. He really is the promised one, I muttered. I had my doubts, but this was unbelievable. He had a connection to the light. What the fuck? Renard muttered. With enough time, he could probably win this. But that was the main problem, wasn't it? Time we didn't have. Sooner than later, the Night King would strike, and he wasn't prepared to fight this version of it. He needed time to fully spread his wings, and only then he would vanquish the long night back to hell. I needed to buy him time, all the time I could, For each second the Night King wasn't onto him, he would grow like a wildfire. I had melted the snow around me. The how, it was still unclear for me. Did the God of Light give me more than I thought he did? I was certain I didn't have any fire-related powers before. Shaking my head, I decided to focus on that later. I had to start mobilizing for the first war at hand. While my main enemy was certainly not what I had expected, the plan was still the same. I had to unite the 7 kingdoms and fight the Forsaken with the living as one. And if I really did have a new power I wasn't aware of, I would learn to control it along the way. My King John ran up to me with a worried expression. You shouldn't be out here without any guards. I didn't know if felt insulted by that comment or flattered he already cared this much for me. Maybe a bit of both, but for his sake, I will feel flattered. It all right, John. I chuckled. I just needed to blow off some steam. Literally, I suppose that phrase isn't metaphorical with me anymore. Well, that's if I learn replicate whatever I did today. Father wants to discuss our approach in the war, John informed me. Sure, lead the way, Lord Targaryen. I nodded, making John uncomfortable, and I can't blame him. All his life he thought himself to be a bastard, and now he is being forced into nobility. I still don't think it's wise to waste such title on me, John muttered, his head down. Stop selling yourself short, John. I sighed. You are an amazing guy with a heart of gold, and considering how the 90% of people in this world is, you should feel worthy of that seat. For real. Do you really think people like Tywin deserve to rule? Yes, he is smart, and very good at what he does. But he is also a piece of shit that would do anything and sacrifice to win. People like Ned and you are very, very rare. I don't think I'm worthy, but I will do my best. John smiled a bit less depressed. I suppose my words helped him a bit. You better, I playfully threatened him as we walked back to Winterfell, with my mind eventually drifting off, back to my encounter with the Night King. So much shit to deal with in so little time. One thing was clear. As soon as I won this war, I would take 1 year off. I deserved that shit. Tywin Lannister POV. Renard Mormont has crossed the sea with more than half of his army. This was beneficial for us, with the Tyrells in our side and with Renard bringing just a part of his army. We had an army roughly the same size as Renard's, which meant things would play out depending on our strategy. And while I admit Renard is possibly one of the best players of the game I had faced in decades, I was still better. I had experience. This wasn't my first war, nor it would be my last one. Father, Lady Olenna wants to discuss the wedding arrangements with you, Tyrion said, announcing his presence. The old rose. All she wants to do is waste my time. I sighed. Olenna was an annoying necessity for now, but if she thought I would indulge her because of that, she was utterly wrong. Well, I will let Lady Olenna know you're busy. Tyrion sighed. How is your sister taking all this? I inquired. Since the betrothal between Joffrey and Margaery was made, I haven't heard anything from her. She is against the idea of Lady Margaery and Joffrey marrying, Tyrion said. And frankly, that information didn't surprise me at all. Sometimes I thought Cersei wanted for her children to die alone. That or she wanted to marry them. No one was ever good enough for them. It's a good thing her opinion is irrelevant for this decision. All my kids were a failure on their own way. Stupid, reckless, naive, and immature. All I ever wanted to leave behind once I died was a legacy. Something worth remembering and worth continuing, but that wasn't the case. I hadn't left anything behind worth continuing, if only Jaime would stop playing the idiot on shining armor. But there was still time. Time to change the pitifully disgusting legacy I had, and I would do it. I suppose. Tyrion nodded. Cersei Lannister POV. Queen, you shall be, until there comes another, younger and more beautiful, to cast you down and take all that you hold dear. The prophecy of all my children dying. I had to stop it at any cost. The prophecy said a younger queen would cast me down, alongside my children. It was simple, really. All I had to do was to avoid that date was to kill any other queen, and keep the crown. Margaery would have to die, for she aimed for the wrong position. And I would do anything to protect my children. Anything. You seem tense. Jaime said, kissing me. Of course I am. I sighed. I'm the only one trying to protect our children. Jaime pouted for a second, before kissing one more time. Don't be like that. You know I love them, and would die for any of them. I smiled. I know. But I seriously doubt Joffrey marrying the Tyrell girl is that bad. Jaime laughed. It's not like he will die on his wedding night or something. Perhaps he will stop skinning cats alive and get a new hobby fucking his wife. Jaime was lucky I loved him. He was so naive if he thought that wretched slut would live long enough to be called a queen. She is not worthy of Joffrey, I finally said. Let's face it, my lioness, no one will ever be worthy enough for you. Jaime laughed. Because no one is, I hissed at him. Alright, it seems someone needs to release some stress. Jaime smiled, whispering into ear those words in a seductive manner, as he licked my ear. I volunteer for the task, my queen. I'm my other half. My good half. Very well, I think you deserve some desert. I smirked at him. There's the spider POV. Illyrio was dead, and Reinhard was here. What an unfortunate turn of events. If I had to take a guess, Reinhard discovered my plots to try and manipulate him to support the young Griff. And if I had any chance for dialogue, Illyrio destroyed it, with his idiotic plan to destroy Renard before he left Essos, and now with Illyrio gone, the young bear would aim his claws at me. And in the end, I had but two options, dying or helping him, because if he spread the news that I was the one that freed Lord Stark and helped him marry Daenerys, I would immediately get killed. He had me on checkmate. I had no idea if he knew this or not, or if he played knowing he would have me at his feet by the end of the game. But regardless of it, he had won, and for now I had to help him. At least until the young Griff was strong enough to claim the throne. Once again you win, I muttered, with a low chuckle. Once again the enigma of the young bear had vastly exceeded my expectations, but sooner or later he would slip, and I would be there to exploit that moment of weakness. 3 weeks after my altercation with the Night King outside Winterfell, I decided it was time to start moving with my plans. With the first thing on the list being most of my army in the north. Dorne's army would be waiting for me close to the Freys. The life of the old man Frey was in the big scheme of things, inconsequential. If he didn't piss me off by trying to charge me to pass through his castle to the other side, I would let him live. But I knew he would try and charge me. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of how much. Well, I will deal with that when the time comes, I thought, as I discussed with Ned, Jon and Oberyn about how we would proceed. First I would have to deal with Stannis Baratheon. He was certainly a bump on my road that Tywin would use to weaken me down. So I had to play it smart, move with caution, and strike without hesitation. After eliminating Stannis erasing his sorry arse of the game once and for all, I would proceed with the next phase of my plan, economic destabilization. There were 3 main cores that kept the Lannisters in power. For one, until a few months ago they had the Iron Bank lending them money, but with the Iron Bank under my control, they had lost that cow. The next key core was their reputation. The Lannisters were feared and respected among the houses of Westeros, and the small people as the richest house in the Seven Kingdom. And while that was true at one point, it wasn't anymore. They were dirt poor now, compared to other houses. Their gold mines had run dry years ago. Reason why Tywin had been relying so much on the Iron Bank. But with the bank out of his hands, he was in a difficult situation. Fortunately for me, this was a core easy to destroy. All I had to do was spread rumors of them being poor, and little by little Tywin would lose hold of his reputation. That alone was enough to make his hold crumble, but I wanted to add a cherry on the top, a rumor to destabilize Tywin and his children. I would let the world know that Cersei is fucking her brother. I would spread the rumors far and wide, left and right, until every person in the kingdom knew of their relationship. While this fact was already known, making sure everybody knew it would shake their hold more, and would put in doubt the legitimacy of their rule even more. And last but not least, the last core keeping them in power was their allies. Well, one specifically, the Terrace had recently joined the Lannisters, and I knew Terrace had them for more than their army or money. That man was smart, very smart. Because he had secured an alliance with the biggest food distributor in Westeros. Food was essential in war times. A well-fed kingdom doesn't rebel against their rulers. Terrace knew they needed the small people under control. Should they rise because they were starving, he would lose the war. The food was also essential to keep their army obeying them. A starving soldier will forget about their oaths and where their loyalties lie with. In short, Terrace needed the Terrace more than he would care to admit. Destroying the Tyrells would destroy their house of cards, creating a domino effect of chaos and anarchy. No food, no money, and no legitimate rulers. If I played my cards right, I would have Tyrell in checkmate. That is a terrifyingly good plan, Oberyn muttered with a smile, clearly surprised with how far I was thinking. It's quite the plan, Ned nodded, but I knew he wasn't exactly happy with my tactic of spreading up rumors, thinking it wasn't honorable. The faster we win this, the faster we can face the long night as one. Jon, like his father, didn't like the spreading rumors tactic, but cared more about humanity than the honor of how we won. I just hope we don't have to eliminate the phrase, Ned sighed. I think he is plotting something, but what I don't know... Alright, then he is definitely plotting something. Oberyn chuckled. How do you know? Jen inquired, as I laughed knowing where Oberyn was going with this. Ned Stark is suspicious of a plot. Oberyn smirked. If he saw through that man, he was probably laughing like a cliché villain, while rubbing his hands in an evil way or something. Ha ha. Oh God. I laughed, as I saw Lord Stark glare at Oberyn. Hey, no offense. It's just the North is so pure. The South is... Well, you have to deal with 3 plots before breakfast. On a slow day. Oberyn chuckled. I'm still not sure how Ronard came to be so good seeing through them when he is from here. A gift that happens to be a curse. I sighed. With a northerner as a king, we might finally have a kingdom without plots, Jon added. That would be great, Ned smiled as he turned his gaze back to Oberyn. Keeping the North pure as you called it is my intention. The South is nothing but corruption. On that we can agree, Oberyn conceded. Well, let's rest today. We are leaving tomorrow, I announced, getting a chorus of eyes on the table. Daenerys POV. Yunkai, the city I was currently attacking, also known as the Yellow City. It's one of the most prominent slaver cities on the eastern coast of Slaver's Bay in Essos. But they stood no chance. Their pitiful defenses would crumble under my fist, and I would claim the city sooner or later. The city was ruled by the wise masters. Unlike Astapor, where they mainly sell soldiers, Yonkai's main export is bed slaves, also known as sex slaves, which left them to buy their defenses, that at the moment were around 5,000 sellsword soldiers. Compared to my 40,000 soldier army and 2 dragons, they stood no chance. Crow and Rhaegal were almost big enough to be mounted. Nothing would stand in our way. Reynard would conquer the 7 kingdoms, while I would finish what he started in Essos, because we would do anything to ensure our children had no enemies. Missandei, pass me the towel. I was taking a relaxing bath with my babies, but it was time to get out, but something was wrong. Melisandei never takes this long to reply. Missandei, I must apologize, my queen. Missandei came with the towel. But yours bears have captured a man trying to sneak here. Who would be so stupid as to try and sneak into my bathroom when I'm taking a bath with my babies? Who? His name is Dario Naharis, Missandei answered. Taking a deep breath, I ordered 2 of my servants to dress the babies and take them to the nursery that was filled with bears and ravens that would die to protect them, and in the meantime I would deal with this sad attempt of an assassination. I stood in front of Dario, who had scratches on his abdomen and back. The bears really did a number on him. What are you doing here? No, let me rephrase that. Did you really think you could kill me? Oh dear Lord, no, Dario chuckled. If you open my bag, you'll see I came here in peace. Then again, I should have just sent a raven. This happened to me because I wanted to surprise everyone. His bag, well, I suppose I could indulge that stupid request. Someone open his bag. I will, my queen, Jorah said, taking the bag and opening it. His surprised expression told me that what he saw wasn't something he expected. What is it? I inquired. He brought the other captains with him, my queen, Jorah answered. Their heads to be precise, Dario chuckled. I'm not a stupid man, I know I can't beat you, and frankly your cause is not that bad, so I killed the other 2 that didn't want to support your cause. I see, but you still tried to sneak into my chambers, where me and my children were taking a bath. I smiled coldly. For today, sleep on a cell. Perhaps tomorrow I will feel generous and let you bend the knee, or I might still be angry and demand your head. Who knows? So take this time and pray to your gods. With that I left the room, leaving a slightly shocked and amused Dario behind. With my army finally on the north, it was time to start moving south. It was time to destabilize the Lannisters. My ravens would take care of that. 100 of them would spread far and wide, dropping the information I wanted about my enemies, creating a social chaos. In the meantime, I would move my entire focus on 2 tasks. 1, defeating Stannis. 2, destroying the Tyrells. Without Stannis, things would go a bit easier. For me, and I would get access to a nearly endless supply of dragonglass. And without the Tyrells, the kingdom would have no food. No food means no passive little people. No passive little people mean riots, and with the riots comes my attack. It will take us a month to get to the Frey's bridge, Ned informed, which brought me back to something I had yet to decide, what to do with the old man Frey. I knew for a fact he would not let me pass for free. He was too greedy to allow that. He might fear me, but his greed completely overrides any other emotion. And while his death was a guaranteed fact, the when was the question. Depending of how greedy he tried to be, it would depend on whether I focus on destroying his house first or leave him for last. In the great scheme of things, he inconsequential. He has no army to pose a threat, nor the wits to outwit me. He was a bug waiting to be squished on. Well, 1 month before this war starts, I nodded as I looked ahead of the road deep in thought. Things were finally coming into place. The end of this wretched game was coming, and I would ensure it was destroyed for good. For my family, for my people, I would win. But none of that mattered if I didn't win the final war, the fight against the others. Only then, the world would be safe. Young Griff POV. Cold, fear, despair. There was nothing but that beyond the wall, and I had doomed my army to this destiny. That was all I could think of as laid on the floor, seeing the monster that had decimated my army alone. Our weapons were useless. Our numbers were useless. Nothing we did made a difference. In the end, we were a page on a book no one will ever read. Life is so fragile, so pathetic, the monster muttered, his blue eyes glowing with nothing but a cold feeling of death.
What are you?
Inquired, focusing really hard. I'm not passing out, blood loss already affecting me. I am the end. As his response sent a shiver down my spine, I started to see my men, the men that had come with me, the men I had killed on this trip by bringing them here, rise from the ground, their bodies coming back to life. That monster pretended to desecrate them even after death. Someone will stop you, I know it. I chuckled as I felt my life starting to slowly fade away. I'm not the prince that was promised, that much is for sure now. But the real one will end this darkness. Light's so pathetic. Light thinks it travels faster than anything, but it is wrong. No matter how fast light travels, it finds the darkness has always got there first, and is waiting for it. The monster said with a cold, chilling tone as he approached me. Before light, before life, before creation, before everything, there was nothing but darkness, and I will bring back the world to its original state. Now begone, fake dragon. With that, the monster stabbed my heart, and as the pain spread through my body, I felt a cold, chilling sensation taking over, and I knew he was going to do the same. He did with my men. Fuck you, I muttered with my last breath of freedom, with my last breath as a living man. Tywin Lannister POV. Rhaenyra and Stannis, the last two contenders for the throne. Rhaenyra represented a bigger threat in a military point of view, but on the other hand, Stannis had the bigger claim. If I killed one, the other would rise from the ashes stronger. Why aren't we destroying them? Cersei inquired angrily, sitting beside Tyrion, much to her dismay. The opportunity of defeating our enemies will be provided by the enemy itself, I said calmly. We are lions, we hunt, and to hunt means we wait for the right moment to strike. Not a moment after, not a moment before. So we do nothing, Cersei growled. They are trying to take our throne and we do nothing. Behave, or I will remind you why you fear me. Child, I said with a cold glare that shut the idiot of a daughter I have. All warfare is based on deception. Hence why, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When moving our forces, we must seem defeated. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. And when far away, we must make them believe we are near. And when they expect us to attack like now, we must bid our time and strike when they least expect it. So shut your mouth, and let me do what K do best. The question is, who should we eliminate first? Tyrion inquired. Rhaenyra or Stannis? They both represent a threat, but one has dragons. When the opportunity to attack arises, I will let you know, I informed Tyrion. For now we had to plan every aspect of this war, from how to kill their soldiers, to how to kill a dragon. Only then we would move. Peter Bellish POV. Ronald Mormont, a brat that had outgrown everyone's expectations. He went from a small lord to the biggest threat to the Iron Throne, and in all honesty I would ally myself with him. If it wasn't for the fact that Ned Stark on his side, I would die very fast. I betrayed him, but who would have known all this would happen? Too bad. Killing Ronald and marrying his queen and finally becoming king would be considerably easier than dealing with the Lannister. God knows Cersei would eat me alive. So unfortunately for Renard, I couldn't use him, and he would have to die because of it. With the Freys on my side, I would eliminate that thorn on my plans and kill him. My plan was simple. The Freys would invite Renard and his small council to dinner, and because the guest rulers forbade them from bringing weapons inside another's house, they would be defenseless. Then the Freys would strike, killing them. Happy ending for all. I can't wait for that old wolf and stupid bear to die. I chuckled. Too bad the Freys will have to kill Oberyn too. The Martells will not be happy. An idiot he is. Stop him, we will.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to Peter Baelish, an incredibly wise raven was spying on him and knew all about his plans. Walder Frey POV. Peter Baelish had offered me something I couldn't resist. Money, power, and lands, and I would follow our plan unless the young bear offered me something better. I had grandkids, and he had a son and a daughter. If he agreed to marry my grandkids to his children, I would help him. After all, a Frey would rule if that happened. But if he didn't accept my proposal, he would die and his crusade would come to an end. I hope for his sake he accepts, but either way I would get what I want. I always do, and always will. Prepare a feast. The young bear is coming and we must be ready. I smiled, ordering my men to be ready to join him or kill him. The twins, or more commonly known as the Crossing, was magnificent. I know the lord leading them is a piece of shit, but the castle and seat of House Frey is quite the sight. We are here, my king, Ned informed me. He had repeated in the trip over 100 times that I had to be cautious with Lord Frey because he only played for his own benefit, not shit Sherlock. I know, I nodded, seeing the Frey's castle from afar. So far I could note that their castle consisted of 2 near-identical towers that were considerably bigger and a fortified bridge over the green fork of the River Trident, which made it almost impossible to cross to the south without paying them. Quite a smart tactic of the Frey's predecessors to rise in power, to be honest. After all, they made the twins represent the only crossing point over the green fork for hundreds of miles in either direction, turning their entire castle in a barrier to travelers and merchants traveling from the north to the western riverlands. And while you can go around, it would be quite the trip. Moving from one point to the other, while avoiding the twins, would require an absurdly lengthy detour of hundreds of miles to the south, or hazardously traversing the bogs and swamps of the Neck to the north. Like I said, the Frey that had this idea was a genius. Too bad that what it took 3 generations to build in 600 years would fall under my iron fist. The Freys were unfortunately for them unimportant and brought more problems that helped, so I would have to erase them from the nobles' houses. It seems they were waiting for. Intriguing, Oberyn smiled, as I turned my attention to the gates, and like Oberyn said, it seems they knew I was coming and were expecting me, because a few men were coming out towards me in horses, Lord Frey among them. I wonder what plot is cooking that old bastard. I chuckled. Well, whatever it is will end with him screaming and us laughing. Oberyn smiled, making me laugh, while Ned and Jon sighed in disapproval. I won't kill people for fun, but that doesn't mean that when they do deserve to be killed, I won't enjoy it. I smirked as the self-righteous duo. Amen to that, Oberyn nodded. Lord Frey had invited us to a feast, but requested we didn't bring our weapons. Sometimes I wonder, do I have a sign on my head that says I'm an idiot, or something, like even without my knowledge of the Red Wedding I could still see through this shit. But what it was new was that he wanted to talk to me about alliance first. So if I had to take a wild guess, I would say he wanted to see if I could offer him something better that he had been offered. But unless he was looking for a slow death ending in decapitation and the total annihilation of his house, I had nothing to offer. My king, take a seat if you want, Walder Frey said with a friendly tone. Impressive, he can hide so well his motives. I suppose he has lived this long for a reason. I would rather not, I answered as I gave him a look, demanding for him to say whatever he wanted to say so we could get this over with. Why, my king, Julia Sarenford said, with a weak tone. She was the wife of Walder Frey. She was around my age, maybe younger, and was forced to marry an 80-year-old man. Her face of utter despair and defeat were more than enough to tell me she didn't like her life at all. Don't ask, and do it, woman, Walder Frey barked at her. I must apologize. All women are good for is to spread their legs and push babies out. And both require them to spread their legs, ha, he laughed. The bastard laughed. I'm sure you must understand the feeling. Was this your plan? To infuriate me so much that I would unavoidably jump at you and rip out that head of yours apart with my bare hands. I growled indirectly he had insulted my wife and daughter, and then he tried to connect with me by thinking I understood his wretched mind, and ended up insulting my family directly. I would never do that, my king, Walder Frey said as he motioned his guards to stick close to him. I just said women need to understand their place. Oh, please drop your weapons. If I wanted to hurt anyone here, I would have done so already. I smirked at the old man. And no, while it's true we differ in many things, everyone is capable of greatness, regardless of your gender. I see it as a sensitive topic, Walder Frey smiled, and then I realized he was testing how to push my buttons. Clever old man, but why poke a beast you can't possibly tame? What do you want for us to cross? Spit it out, old man. I don't have time to waste. I smirked at him, and considering your age, I would say time is a commodity, so don't waste it. This made Walder Frey glare at me for a second, before he returned to his fake sweet old man. I suppose you are right. Very well, what I want is your son and daughter to marry one of my sons and daughters. It can be anyone, when they come to age of course. I have one already baking with my newest wife. Wow, I chuckled. I had reached a point of anger. I wasn't angry anymore. This decrepit old walking corpse wanted to force my children to marry his disgusting, pathetic, vomit-provoking kin. I think it is a fair price for free passing, Walder Frey smiled. Ha ha ha. I laughed as I tried to formulate what to say or do. This was a new level of idiotic boldness I was not prepared to deal with. You want, to... Oh, God, I'm so angry. Haha, I know my actions right now. Tell you otherwise, but I'm fucking boiling with anger. Haha. I take that as a no then, Walder Frey said, showing his real disgusting self for the first time. Abso-fucking-lutely, I growled, breaking the table between us in two, with a punch. I won't force them to marry, and even if I did, it wouldn't be with your family. Walder Frey stood silent for a second, impressed by my display of raw strength. Very well, I suppose if we can't do that, you can pay the toll. 1,000,000 gold dragons for a year of passage sounds fair. Yes, I smiled, knowing full well that after this failure he was going back to his original plan, killing me on the feast. See you tomorrow at the feast, Walder Frey smiled at me. I wouldn't miss a party like that, I smiled back. Oberyn Martell POV. When Ronard had returned from his meeting with Lord Frey, he was agitated. I had learned to read his body language for safety reasons. Ronard was possibly one of the best men to hang out with when he is happy, but angry he is a fucking natural disaster. I take it the old man pissed you off, I inquired, and Ronard smiled at that as he started to fill his round table of what had happened. Lord Frey wanted to marry one of his sons and daughters to Ronard's heirs, and our benevolent king rejected, and frankly who wouldn't? That old bastard is nothing but trouble. But what made my night was that Ronard's suspicions were right. His spy inside the castle had informed him that Lord Frey would strike during the feast, when we were unarmed, and that this meeting was to see if he could get a bigger slice of cake, and once he didn't get what he wanted, well, here we are. Well, now this is a real party, I smiled, holding my spear tight. To think he would go that far, breaking the guest rights. Where is the honor? Ned muttered. So what do we do? Jon inquired. We destroy him in his house, Ronard smirked at us. I will make sure no one ever remembers House Frey after tomorrow. Sounds delightful, I smirked. The party was as I had imagined, full of alcohol and other intoxicating substances to keep my men very drunk, making them easy targets. What the old Frey didn't know was that I had told my men about his little plan, and the ones with me inside had orders to pretend to be drinking until the doors to the feast were down. I had also ordered them to hide their weapons, all for dramatic purposes, of course, but that weren't the only orders I gave, because I had other plans for my men outside. Knowing his plan to the letter made it easier for me to counter his moves in every step. For one, I had already replaced his archers and crossbowmen with mine, all while we were pretending to enjoy the party. You would be surprised how little sound a man makes when dying. If you know where to strike, little by little my men would eliminate his outside, making sure to not make any sounds. And by the moment he decided to end me, all he would have left of his house would be his decrepit arse and his soon-to-be-dead children. For now, all I had to do was wait, and let things fall into place. Nothing more but enjoying the show. Your Grace, Walder Frey said as he stood up his chair with a cup in his hand, making everybody take a seat except for the members of my round table, Ned, Jon, Oberyn, and of course myself. I feel I need to do something more to show my appreciation and support to your cause. I'm intrigued. Go on, I smiled as I looked up, seeing the signal from one of my ravens that the men outside the castle were all dead. That was fast. Walder smiled as he signaled the little men he still had something. I've given you meat and wine and music, but I haven't shown you the hospitality you deserve. My king is too sad you didn't want to form a bridge with us, an alliance. Oh, I see what you did there. A bridge. Huh. Because your house sigil is a bridge. I chuckled. This either triggered the old man or made him see I was seeing through his plot all along. Kill them, Walder Frey ordered. Tired of my playful attitude. I might create another house after I kill yours. Raven House? I pondered as Oberyn jumped over the table, killing a man with a fucking fork. That guy sure is resourceful. Finally, Oberyn laughed, pulling 2 long daggers off. I don't know. Where is your honor? Ned shouted, demanding the old men for an answer as he fought with a short sword, barely long enough not to be considered a dagger. Honor is worthless, Walder Frey smirked down at us. All right, this got boring, I said, snapping my fingers. Seconds later, arrows started to fly down on the Frey soldiers inside the room, killing one by one. Frey had a look of shock and terror as he started to put the points together. My attitude, my confidence during all this ordeal, he was old and stupid, but even he knew, now that is, that I had on checkmate since the beginning. Don't bother trying to escape, I smiled. I already took over this castle. We can talk about this, your grace, Walder Frey begged, getting on his knees. Fear, pure and unadulterated despair, taking hold of his very core, all the arrogance, confidence, and more he had been showing up until now, completely gone, as if they never were there. I think we did, I chuckled, patting him on the head. You wanted my kids. I said no. You tried to kill me. With that I turned to my friends. Am I missing something? You are not, your grace, Ned said as he glared with intense rage at the old man, crying, probably still wondering where was his honor or something. I think that's about right, your grace. Oberyn smiled. John nodded. So as you can see, we talked about it, I sighed. So I will give you 1 minute to regain what little self-respect you have left, and then I will kill you. I have a child coming, Walder Frey said rapidly. Pointing as his wife, the child will need his father. I killed all your family today, every single one of them, except for her, I pointed at his wife, because she is the only member of your family that actually wanted to die, and I can't blame her. Sleeping with you must be a nightmare. I can't imagine a fate worse than that. Oh, for the love of God. Oberyn said in disgust. You had to put that image on my head. I will need therapy after this. Not my fault, Oberyn, I shrugged with a smile as I turned my attention back to the old man. So ready to die? I demand a trial by combat. Oh, that was unexpected. The old man was trying to use Westeros laws against me, and while it was a clever move, he didn't think things through. For once he had no warriors, in which case he would have to fight for himself. Sure, I chuckled. Please go ahead. Call your champion. Walder Frey said, slowly freezing as the realization hit him. He had no champion, and no ally he thought he had would send one to save him. He was worthless to everyone. Without his castle, he was but an ant. And I feel I'm insulting ants. Oh yeah, you don't have any. I'm pretty sure that by this point my men have already wiped your army off the map. I chuckled as I grabbed a sword from the ground. Walder Frey was apparently stuck on a loop. By law, you are entitled to a champion. If no champ is available, you would have to fight for yourself. I smiled, tossing the sword I had grabbed at him. There you go. I can't fight, Walder Frey cried out. I can barely walk. Have mercy of this old man. Geez, talk about pathetic, I smirked. This is sad, very sad, but in a good way, Oberyn said, approving of this situation. Coward, not even in death. You have honor, Ned Stark growled. Grabbing a second sword from the ground, I started to approach the old man, with a smile slowly forming on my face as I eyed the girl he had forced to take his seat and marry him. An idea of sorts came to life. Lady Joyous Erenford, how would you like to kill this man? I mean, you kinda look like you want to slice his dick. No, I won't die at the hands of a weak and... The old man couldn't finish his sentence, for I had punched him with enough strength to render him immobile, but no unconscious. Your Grace, I desire, overwhelming desire. She was afraid of me, but I could see she wanted to take my offer more than anything. I don't think letting the young lady do that is a wise idea, Ned Stark said, a bit uncomfortable with my decision. We need to purge our own demons, Lord Stark. And for her to ever be at peace, she has to do it. You don't have to like it, but she has more rights than I do to kill him. I said with a tone that said my decision was final. I couldn't agree more, Oberyn said with a serious tone, probably imagining how he would make Tywin suffer or something. I want to kill him. Joyeuse, Erenford said with tears running down her eyes, anger, happiness, disgust, sadness, a turmoil of emotions going through her at the same time. Sure, enjoy, I choose you to be my champion. I nodded, leaving the young lady alone with her husband. After all, I had a castle to clean up and an army to regroup, and the screams of pain of Walder would surely make this night memorable. The screams of pain that the last Frey was letting out filled the castle walls for hours, making for quite the BGM. I had no idea what the lady did to him while he was alive, but it sure sounded painful, very painful. What I didn't take into account at all was that once Walder died, the young lady Erenford would decide to end her life, cutting her own throat. If I had to take a guess, I would say that the idea of being pregnant with that old bastard child was more than enough to drive her to a point of no return. At the very least, she got the justice she so desperately wanted. Ned Stark was still a bit uncomfortable to say something with my decision, but I frankly didn't care about his narrowed views of reality. Sometimes justice is obscure and messy. Not all justice is about honor or Superman shit. Besides, even if I had killed the old man myself, she would have still killed herself. At least this way she got to die with a smile on her face, or at the very least a sense of satisfaction. But taking all the killing of today aside for a second, I was kinda grateful with the Freys. After all, they had left me with a beautiful castle very close to the south, that would prove to be quite beneficial once the war with the Lannister starts. In short, I had access to the south, while the Lannisters and Stannis didn't have access to the north. At least not direct access. What it would take me hours to move it would take them days. I think we should regroup with Dorne first, before we start moving, Ned said, and he was right. Oberyn had only brought with him a handful of Dornish soldiers, and in the north, the Martells had only sent a small part of their army. We needed their full army before moving forward. Very well, I nodded. I knew full well I had to go to Dorne myself, to seal in blood the alliance with Dorne. One thing was Oberyn supporting me, but if I didn't have his brother kneeling, then, well, things could go south if they decide to stop helping me. Lord Stark, you are in charge of my army and people in my absence. Don't engage on combat, unless it's unavoidable, and totally necessary. I'll be back. I suppose I'll go with you, Oberyn smiled. We have an army to bring, and some Lannisters to kill. I chuckled. Tywin Lannister POV. Peter Baelish has requested to see me, he said. He had wonderful news, and I couldn't help but wonder, what was this little worm planning? He thought he was so clever, so cunning. But even a blind child could see through his pathetic schemes, but at times he was useful, reason why he still breathes. Lord Hand, Peter Baelish greeted as he entered my office. My time is worth gold, Littlefinger. Speak, and for your sake, go straight to the point, I said, taking a sip of my cup of wine. As you wish, Peter Baelish nodded. I wanted to let you know, Lord Hand, that I have taken care of Ronard. Soon we will be hearing of his sad demise. Isn't that wonderful? How could this worm say that he took care of our main enemy, if that was so easy? I would have done so already. Besides, Ronard was still on the twins. What has he done? What have you done? If my suspicions were right, Peter Baelish convinced the Freys to try and kill Ronard. But only a brainless piece of shit would ever think that would work. Ronard wasn't Ned Stark. He wasn't blinded by stupidity, he was playing the game. Quite superbly, if I might add, and he knew the best way to play it was to trust nobody, meaning an assassination attempt, even by using the guest rights, would prove to be useless. The kid defeated Braavos for fuck's sake. I made a deal with Lord Frey to... The moment his mouth confirmed my suspicions, he met the full force of my fist colliding with his teeth. Guards, take him to a room and don't let him leave, I ordered the guards, who started to drag the imbecile off my presence. It was the best way, Peter Baelish shouted, trying to defend his case. Stop, I ordered the guards. Let me make a wild guess of what will actually happen. Ronard will go talk with Lord Frey. Lord Frey, being that he has no loyalties, will try to get a bigger offer. Once he doesn't, he will try your plan. But surprise, Ronard knew all along, and kills everyone, taking hold of the only straight passage to north. He is just a brat. We will, Peter Baelish tried to defend his idiotic point once again. But a slap proved to me efficient in shutting him up. You know why I know how things will play out? I asked Peter Baelish, who shook his head, afraid at this point for his life. Because that's how I would have done it. If I were on his place, things would play exactly as I told you. People seem to underestimate him because he comes from the north, others because he is young, and some because he comes from a small house. But I don't underestimate him. I might have at the beginning, but he proved I was wrong. And Littlefinger, unlike many, I learned from my mistakes. I understand Peter Baelish once again tried to talk, but I had grown tired of his annoying company. Take him and don't let him get out of the castle. His fate is to be decided soon, depending on the outcome of his stupid plan. So you might as well pray. Peter Baelish, I said as I walked out of my solar, leaving a terrified Littlefinger behind as he was being dragged across the castle to a room. Robb Stark, POV. Father had left me in charge of the house for the moment being. I was set to march with the rest of the army in a month to help them win this war. But now, that wasn't the most shocking thing. Jon, the bastard brother I always thought was my brother, was actually my cousin, a Targaryen. That revelation didn't help Mother at all. She thought this was a way of Ronner to humiliate her even more, making the bastard she hated a lord, an important lord. At this point, Mother's ramblings were stupid, but I suppose I understood somewhat what she was feeling to an extent. The surprise was overwhelming, but unlike her, my mind wasn't totally dominated by her uncalled hate for Ronard. So Jon is our cousin, Sansa muttered, still in disbelief. Aye, I nodded, lost in thought. Well, that makes sense considering I don't see Father with another woman. Sansa added, and she was right. We never really understood how Father could do that, and now, things finally became clear. He's still my brother, Arya smiled. Aye, on that we can all agree, I chuckled. In the end, no matter who Jon was, Arya was right. He was our brother. He might have dragon blood on his veins, but he was a wolf all the way, and he was part of our pack. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, and we were going to survive this war.